Chapter 369. Dark Forest, Dark Castle. Under the grape trellis on the rooftop, Lord Devour was still leisurely reading and eating grapes. It seemed he couldn't get tired of reading this book, and he couldn't finish the grapes. All of a sudden, the door opened. Madame Gio in her gray robe walked in with a cup of hot tea. Looking at Lord Devour's back, she smiled and put the hot tea on the crystal table. She bowed and stood aside quietly. Lord Devour acted as if he didn't see her, continuing to read his book. After a while, he tilted his head and said emotionlessly, "What's up?" "Yeah." Madame Gio smiled and then said, "My lord, you don't want to take care of little Han anymore?" "Why should I care about it?" Lord Devour arched his brows, asking with surprise, "I've repaid his favor, haven't I? Do you owe him a favor?" "Yeah." "No." Madame Gio was a little surprised, answering with an embarrassed face. "Even if you owe him a favor, you should take care of him. You want me to help him, so you owe me another favor." Lord Devour closed his book, taking a sip of the hot tea. Then he continued, "Do you want to owe me another favor?" "Haha, my lord, you must be joking. I can't repay your favor for the rest of my life. How could I dare to ask for more from you?" "Gio will leave now." Madame Gio bowed one more time, walking away gracefully. "I've helped him once. If Yi Qinghan can't handle such a small matter, I'm wrong about him." Lord Devour put down the teacup, picking up the book and saying faintly, "Gio, you don't need to go down there. Let's go to Song City to watch a good show." However, when she picked up the book, she suddenly looked towards the south in astonishment. Then, her expressionless face revealed a slight smile. She put down the book and stood up, saying, "Gio, there's no need to go down. Let's go to Song City and watch a good show." Gio was surprised, looking at Lord Devour, but he didn't ask anything. After a while, two shadows, one red and one gray, disappeared from the dark castle. Yi Qinghan felt like he had a very long dream. In the dream, there was nothing but darkness and a drop of water that kept dripping down. He felt that this dream seemed to have gone on for a very long time. Perhaps it was a few days, perhaps it was a few years, perhaps it was tens of thousands of years. For such a long time, he had nothing to do, as if he could do nothing. Like a bored child watching ants crawling on the ground, he began to study the drop of water. Where did this drop of water come from? Why was it spinning when it dripped down? Why did it create ripples when it landed? In the end, how did it disappear for no reason? He thought about it for a long time, but he still couldn't figure it out. In the end, he simply stopped thinking about it. If the water droplets fell, so be it. If they disappeared, so be it. Why should he care so much? However, when he stopped thinking about it, he suddenly understood. There was a reason why the water droplets fell, there was a reason why they rotated, and there was a reason why they disappeared. Everything was reasonable, and there was no need for him to pursue the reason behind it. All he needed to know was that it had fallen, it had spun, it had disappeared, and then he had woken up. The first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was that he was hugging a girl. This girl seemed a little familiar. This woman was completely naked, and her beautiful body was right next to his body. The sight of it made his entire body suddenly dry up. It seemed like his guy was still in the other party's paradise. Looking at Yu Qingqing's beautiful face that was sleeping soundly with her eyes closed, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Then, he realized that his lower part was starting to harden again. Yu Qingqing had just finished listening to the song, but she was woken up by a strange movement. She opened her pearl-like eyes and blinked at Yi Qinghan. Only when she felt that her lower part was filled with something hard did she suddenly wake up. She quickly twisted her body and turned to the side. She covered her face and pulled the quilt. She was so embarrassed that she didn't dare to see anyone. "Little Qingqing, you're so beautiful. Come, let this young master admire your blooming peach blossoms." Yi Qinghan hurriedly followed up and stuck his body to her. His two big hands went under the blanket and hugged Yu Qingqing from behind. His fiery lower body directly pressed down, as if he wanted to let this peach blossom one more time. Oomph! A cold snort resounded in the room, splashing cold water on the two people's burning hot bodies and waking them up in an instant. Yi Ching Han, if you want Song City to be breached, your Yi family's experts to be annihilated, and your ancestor to self-destruct, then you can't do anything you want. You can continue to enjoy it. The cold voice rang out again. This time, the two of them heard it clearly and were not as panicked. However, after understanding the content of the words, they became even more panicked. It's the clan leader. Yu Qingqing's face was as red as a ripe strawberry. Like a startled kitten, she suddenly jumped up from the bed and frantically looked around for clothes to wear. What? Yi Qinghan was also startled. He immediately jumped up and put on his clothes as quickly as possible. Then, he waited for Yu Qingqing to finish putting on her clothes before bringing her out of the second floor and onto the rooftop. Qingqing greets the clan leader. Big brother, little Han. The two of them saw Yu Shishui standing calmly on the rooftop, as well as Yi Qingwu and Yi Qingyu, whose faces were filled with joy. Senior Yu, what's going on? Yi Qing'an nodded at Yi Qingwu and Yi Qingyu, but didn't say anything. Instead, he turned his attention to the white-robed Yu Shishui and asked anxiously, Nothing's going on? Yu Shishui looked outside the city and said calmly, In about 10 minutes, the experts of the House of Aries will be defeated. In half an hour, Song City will be breached. Your ancestor will probably make his move soon and prepare to self-destruct. Holy shit! Is it that serious after a nap? Yi Qinghan swallowed hard and looked outside the city in fear, but he didn't think too much about it. He cupped his hands at Yu Shishui and said, 10 minutes is enough. Xiao Wu, little Qingqing, little Yu, come with me? Senior, wait for me. Yi Qinghan didn't hide from Yu Shishui. He opened his freedom ring and brought the three girls into the Freedom Pavilion. You guys stay here and wait for me to return. After leaving the three girls in the main hall of the Freedom Pavilion, Yi Qinghan used form displacement transposition to appear in the cultivation room. Only Elder Lu was sitting cross-legged in the empty cultivation room, cultivating. Little Han, congratulations. Elder Lu opened his beady eyes and smiled at Yi Qinghan. The beard on his chin trembled as he spoke. There's no time. Elder Lu, do you have a full-body battle robe or some other offensive divine tool? I do have a set of battle robes. I bought it in the Immortal Realm for fun, and it's pretty cool. Elder Lu smiled faintly and took out a black battle robe, a black dragon-shaped mask, and a warrior hat from his interspatial ring. He threw them to Qing Han and said, Didn't I give you all the sacred weapons last time in the God-slaying mountain? I only have ordinary divine tools. I gave them all to the Yi family and others. I still have a few that I can't use. Yi Qinghan took the black battle robe and laughed bitterly. Then he suddenly thought of something and exclaimed, That's right, I still have a saber that I can use. All right, Elder Lu, I'm leaving. Yi Qinghan didn't waste any more time and disappeared from the Freedom Pavilion. Chapter 370. Outside Song City, the battle had reached its peak. Under Yi Ruoshui's command, the 400 Sage Realm experts of the House of Aries and 2,000 Emperor Realm experts roared and charged towards the Golden Horn Holy Tribe. There were around 600 Golden Horn Holy Tribe experts before they came to Song City. After a round of sneak attacks from the House of Aries, more than 100 of them were injured. However, there were no casualties. On the other hand, the Sword Emperor Lights the Heavens, had taken over 200 lives. Jian Huang was the strongest God Realm expert of the House of Aries. He was a warrior of the House of Aries who was infinitely close to the peak Heavenly God Realm. Most importantly, the location of his self-detonation was at the center of the Golden Horn God clan's territory. He burned his soul and divine crystal. With such terrifying energy, it was normal for him to kill 200 peak martial saints. Of course, if he had more time, he could have easily killed these 100 peak martial saints in less than half an hour. However, he didn't have the time. Once he did, Jin Qi would attack. Thus, he could only choose the fiercest and most lethal move. Of the 600 peak martial saints, less than 400 warriors were left after the first round of explosion. Moreover, half of them were injured. The warriors of the House of Aries rushed over. Although they were all crazy, they didn't lose their minds. The Emperor surrounded the injured foreign martial artists while the saints fought 2 against 1. Taking advantage of the fact that the foreign martial artists were in a daze from the explosions, they smashed their bodies with all their might. Jin Chi roared with a gloomy face. He scolded all the Golden Horn Holy Tribe experts to fight. The four peak martial saints beside him didn't dare to speak. They were afraid that Jin Chi would go crazy and ask them to self-detonate. Of course, Jin Chi didn't dare to ask them to self-detonate to kill people. Self-detonation could destroy the formation. This wasn't against Lord Devour's rules. After all, they had only broken the formation and self-detonated. This was equivalent to giving Lord Devour an explanation. If he asked the peak Heavenly God realm experts to kill people, he was afraid that Lord Devour would kill him in anger. After a while, under Jin Chi's continuous roars, under the leadership of the 200 uninjured experts, the Golden Horn Holy Tribe managed to stabilize their footing. After all, they were all at the peak of the Martial Saint realm. As long as the Black Flame Barrier was activated, the Emperor Realm martial artists could only watch helplessly. Although the number of martial saints in the House of Ares was almost enough, how many peak martial saints were there in the House of Ares? There were only a dozen of them, and Dragonba was the strongest. As for people like Yi Jian, who had just stepped into the Saint Realm, he had not completely grasped the Saint Realm. Although he could barely reach the peak of the first level of the Saint Realm after merging with his beast, there were still a lot of saints like him. Emperor Realm martial artists, retreat. Yi Ruoxue coldly gave the order, and all 2,000 Emperor Realm martial artists retreated to the top of Tsang City's city walls. When the 2,000 Emperor Realm martial practitioners returned, there were less than 1,500 left. Moreover, there were countless who were either injured or crippled. However, they also managed to take away close to 100 injured Golden Horn Holy Clansmen's lives during the chaos. It could be considered a profit. Yi Ruoxue frowned slightly. The situation was a little different from what he had expected. These foreign races had calmed down so quickly. One had to know that these ingenious tactics had been developed by countless strategists in the House of Ares after many days and nights of research. Originally, the Emperor Realm martial artists had predicted that they would be able to kill half of the injured foreign races. Now that the foreign races had stabilized their footing, he naturally wouldn't let these Emperor Realm martial artists die in vain. Yi Jian was suffering. He carefully avoided the Golden Horn Holy Clansmen's attacks while cursing in his heart. Why didn't the foreign races descend a few months earlier? Why did they let him descend after he had broken through to the Saint Realm? His beast was only at the 7th level, and he had just broken through to the Saint Realm. Even his Saint Realm had just been comprehended not long ago. Now, he had to risk his life against a group of crazy peak martial saints. He still believed that death wasn't scary. What he was afraid of was that his death would be worthless. He had just broken through to the Saint Realm and returned from the Yi family's back mountain. He was prepared to show off his skills and restore the prestige of the first house and reclaim the glory that belonged to him. Now he had suddenly joined this inexplicable war, and it was very likely that he would die inexplicably. In the end, he would become an insignificant person at the bottom of the list of countless deaths in the history books. He wasn't willing to accept this. He wasn't willing to let his life end like this and become a grain of sand in the torrent of history. Therefore, he was very careful. His attacks were also pretentious, and his priority was to preserve his life. He wanted to survive this calamity so that he could shine in the future. Yi Tianlong was also very depressed. Although his understanding of laws wasn't high, and he had only reached the 2nd level of the Saint Realm, his beast was at the 8th level. After merging, his battle chi could reach the peak of the Saint Realm. Although his laws were a little low, he could still fight a few hundred rounds with a foreign race member in front of him. He wasn't afraid of death. He also knew that if this continued, he would definitely die. He just wanted to see the woman he had been thinking about for 50 years before he died. Old Man Dragon and Yi Qingyo were also depressed. They always felt a trace of regret that they couldn't see their granddaughter's wedding. But this trace of regret was turned into a frenzied killing intent by the two. Among the hundreds of people, the two's attacks were the fiercest. Moreover, they were fighting together. The Dragon Slayer's dragon-seizing hand directly dispelled the flame barrier around the outsider. Then, the Night Green Ox unleashed a Kuei Ox Chop to heavily injure the outsider bound by the Dragon Slayer. The laws of wood and the laws of destruction complemented each other seamlessly. Their combat strength was ferocious. But after the two killed more than 10 foreign races, they became the focus of the battlefield. Their initial attack turned into a beating. The two of them had a hard time resisting and narrowly escaped death several times. The saints from the Hua family and Feng family were the ones who killed the most people. The Hua family specialized in assassinations, and such a chaotic situation was a good place for them to perform. The Feng family was very smart. They hid behind the people and swung their swords wildly. In the end, they only targeted the injured foreign races. The results were obvious. The hundreds of saints were not afraid of death, but they all had their own thoughts. Some bravely died, some secretly cowered. Some went crazy, some fought bravely. Some became more and more shocked. But at this moment, everyone knew that the House of Aries had lost. In the end, some of them might be able to survive, but they could only surrender in humiliation. Only then would they be able to prolong their feeble existence. The Golden Horn God race was known for their warlike, cruel, and lecherous nature. Once they stabilized their position, they started fighting, but they realized that these enemies were not very strong. Hence, the more they fought, the braver they became, completely suppressing the divine battle manner. The House of Aries also suffered more and more casualties. More than a third of their saints had died, and the number was still increasing. Kaka, children, all transform for me. Kill these abominable humans for me. Don't leave a single one alive. Seeing that the time was right, Jin Shi's eyes turned red as he decisively gave the order to attack. The losses this time were too great. He did not know how he would conquer the remaining race and the small island in the East Sea if the humans did not find the divine sword. But at this moment, he couldn't care less. If he didn't crush all these humans who had caused him to suffer heavy losses into mincemeat, he wouldn't be able to calm down until he vented his anger. Kaka, the remaining 200 or so Golden Horn God race warriors were all in good condition. Under Jin Shi's command, they all roared in excitement. Then, the black flames on their bodies surged, and their bodies became thicker. The two horns on their heads grew infinitely long and thick. Various tattoos wandered on their faces, and their eyes became slightly dark red. It's over. Yi Tianlong's eyes revealed a trace of despair. He raised his head high and looked towards Song City with nostalgia. But he did not see that woman. He was slightly disappointed. His battle aura surged, and he roared as he charged towards the Golden Horn God race warriors. The final battle had arrived. Countless people roared as they charged forward. There were also many who hesitated. Of course, there were also a few who started to retreat secretly. Chapter 371. Yi Ruoshui's two white eyebrows bent helplessly. The moment the Golden Horn God clan transformed, she hesitated. He wanted to give the order to withdraw, but he didn't dare to bear the infamy of surrendering to Wan Shi. However, if they did not surrender, the remaining 200 sages in the House of Aries would all die. Retreat! In the end, his eyes flashed with determination. He swung the flag and inserted it into the city wall of Song City. He exchanged glances with the Blade Emperor and the old ancestor of the Shui clan. With a loud roar, his body disappeared into thin air. Humph! This move again? Jin Shi snorted coldly, and his body disappeared directly. Yi Ruoshui let out a furious roar, and all the sages who were charging forward stopped in their tracks at the same time and quickly retreated. Although they didn't understand what was going on, military orders had to be obeyed. They could only retreat. On the other hand, the sages who were originally retreating ran even faster. Old 3, you and Yushishue will take the elite seedlings and teleport to Violet Island. As long as the Golden Horn God race doesn't return to the divine world, they are not allowed to leave. This is Big Brother's order. Execute it immediately. When the Saber Emperor saw Yi Ruoshui toss the command flag over, he immediately sent a message to the Spear Emperor, who was in the back mountains of the Yi clan, as well as to Yushishue, who was in the Chilling Heart Pavilion sky platform. After he finished transmitting his voice, he cast his gaze forward, waiting for Yi Ruoshui to appear, waiting for her to turn into a brilliant firework. However, what happened next didn't play out as he had expected. His divine sense discovered that the Spear Emperor and Yu Shishui hadn't teleported away. But Yi Ruoxue seemed to have teleported to the wrong location. Yi Ruoxue had actually teleported above the sage domain of the House of Aries, causing Jin Shi, who had teleported above the Golden Horn God race, and was waiting for Yi Ruoxue to arrive, to lock onto him with his God domain, to miss. What was going on? The Saber Emperor and the Shui clan's ancestor looked at each other in bewilderment. The Spear Emperor and Yu Shishui had fallen asleep. Yi Ruoxue was drunk. Jin Shi's eyes were also filled with bewilderment. Scary, right? Why did it suddenly change? Why didn't it self-destruct this time? Is it fun for you to teleport here and there? However, he did not dare to take action in advance and could only lock onto the 3 divine level experts. Once the 3 of them teleported above the Golden Horn God race, he would immediately suppress them with his God domain, not giving them the chance to self-detonate. At the same time, he immediately stopped the charge of the Saint-ranked Golden Horn God race. Since the human race had started to retreat, they might be preparing to surrender. Therefore, he decided to observe for a while. Of course, Yu Shishui and the Spear Emperor weren't asleep, and Yi Ruoxue wasn't drunk either. In that moment, both the Spear Emperor and Yi Ruoxue received a transmission from Yu Shishui. The content of the transmission was only 2 words. Wait a moment. Of course, Yu Shishui wouldn't send a voice transmission for no reason. She hadn't even sent a voice transmission when the Sword Emperor had self-detonated. Now that she suddenly sent a voice transmission to him, she must have her own intentions. Therefore, the Spear Emperor and Yi Ruoxue chose to trust her. However, the 2 of them waited for a while, but they didn't know what they were waiting for, and there were no changes in their surroundings. The sky was still gray and gloomy, but there was a slight wind. It was probably going to rain soon. Charge! Flatten the city in front of us. Jin Shi waited for a while, but Yi Ruoxue was still standing in the air in a daze. He thought that he had been tricked, and he flew into a rage. He waved his hand and ordered the Golden Horn God race to charge. He also decided to advance with the Saint-ranked Golden Horn God race. That way, he could stop the 3 God rank experts from self-detonating at any time. Charge! Your sisters charge! Just as the Golden Horn God race below Jin Shi was about to let out an angry roar and attack, a roar came from the sky. An explosive roar came from the sky, causing their roars to die in their throats. It was as if a bone was grabbed in their throat, unable to move up or down. It was extremely uncomfortable. This voice seemed to be very young, but also very old. It seemed to be very sharp, but also very deep. Furthermore, this voice had obviously been enhanced by battle chi. The voice had also been intentionally altered, making it difficult to distinguish the original voice. This voice was incredibly loud after being enhanced by battle chi. It was like a bolt from the blue, exploding in the sky above Tsang City. The thousands of Tsang City martial artists were all dumbfounded. It's windy and thundering. It's going to rain soon. Why are you guys still messing around here? The voice continued. Sometimes it was sharp, sometimes it was deep, and sometimes it was deep. It made people want to vomit blood. At the same time, a black figure rapidly glided down from the sky, gliding towards the center of the 2 teams. His movement was elegant and at ease. However, when everyone looked at this figure in shock, their expressions of being struck by lightning turned into one of being struck by lightning again. Black lines appeared on their faces, and some people's hair even stood on end. He couldn't tell if the person was a man or a woman, nor could he see his appearance. He also couldn't determine his age. This was because this person was covered in a black robe embroidered with dragons and phoenixes. On his back was a black devil's cape, and on his face was a Qilin mask. He wore a black bamboo hat on his head. Alright, this wasn't important. What was important was that this person had a very strange weapon on his waist. It seemed to be similar to the butcher's butcher knife. Jin Shi and the rest of the Golden Horn God race were confused. They recognized this robe and this attire. This was the attire of an honorary god of war in the heavenly realm, the god of war robe. However, this god of war robe didn't have any stars that represented its grade. Also, the quality of this robe seemed to be inferior. Obviously, it was forged. However, why would the god of war robe, which represented glory and power, appear in this realm? Most importantly, it was forged. Forging a god of war robe was a serious crime. In the heavenly realm, only a small number of bandits would do this on purpose. The people from the House of Ares were also confused. Where did this fierce person come from? He actually came out with a butcher knife, so arrogantly. No, he seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Could he be a god-level expert? But there were only so many god-level experts on the continent. Could he be from the heavenly realm? There were butchers in the heavenly realm too. Otherwise, why would there be a butcher knife? Yi Ruoshe, the Saber Emperor and the old ancestor of the Shui family, had a sudden flash in their eyes. They looked at each other and smiled. However, Yi Ruoshe seemed to recall something. He frowned, especially when he used his divine consciousness to cover the dark forest and found that there was no one in the dark castle. His brows furrowed even more. Who are you? Leave now. Otherwise, don't blame me for tearing you apart. Jin Qi's eyes twinkled. Apparently, he was very angry. However, he was afraid that another Lord Devourer would appear. Thus, he didn't act rashly. Instead, he spoke coldly. This old man's surname is Lord. I come from the Tang Kingdom of the East. I passed by this place and saw that you guys were slaughtering. I couldn't bear it, so I came to ask you to stop. Minotaur, give me some face and let this go. How about that? The black-cloaked man stood in the air. While talking, he turned his head, his back facing Jin Qi. It seemed that he wasn't afraid of a sneak attack. The black devil cloak behind him fluttered in the wind, which made him look imposing. However, the butcher knife at his waist looked a little funny. Who the F***ck are you? Do you believe that I won't slap you to death? Jin Qi didn't dare to move anymore. Facing a god general realm expert and 4 peak of heaven god realm experts, he dared to be so arrogant. If he wasn't a fool, he must be a super expert. This man's power was only at the martial saint realm. However, he had appeared out of nowhere. It was really strange. You dare to attack me? I'm just a martial saint realm warrior. I'm sure that before you can do anything, you will become a pile of meat paste. Have you forgotten the big handprint in the divine city? I'm not afraid to tell you that His Excellency is probably here. If you don't believe me, you can try. The black-cloaked man didn't seem to be a super expert. He was just a fool who had exploded his power. He had pointed out that he was just a martial saint realm expert. He had even boldly used Lord Devourer's name to intimidate others. Martial saint realm? F***CKU. Jin Qi was startled when he heard that. He had just seen the black-cloaked man teleport here with such attire. You see, he was a little dumbfounded. However, after probing with his spiritual sense, he discovered that this person was truly a martial sage. He had probably comprehended the law of space, which was of little value, and had come up with a half-baked teleportation technique to scare people. Right, his teleport seemed to have a big space fluctuation. He was a martial saint realm warrior, a trashy lunatic who had just entered the martial saint realm. This place wasn't the divine realm. How could there be so many hermit experts? The more he thought about it, the clearer his mind became. He was so enraged that his face darkened. He was a god general warrior. How could he be frightened by a piece of trash? If this news spread out, he would lose a lot of face. As he was enraged, his face twisted. He swung his hand and shouted indignantly, I won't do it. I won't make a move. My children, charge forward and tear this person into minced meat. Tear all the cultivators below the divine level in the city into minced meat. Jin Shi, you 4 come here with me. If the human god realm warriors dare to move, kill them all. No need. The black-cloaked man's aura suddenly skyrocketed. It was even stronger than the peak martial saint realm warrior of the Golden Horn God clan. Shouting, he took out the pig's slaughtering knife from his waist and swung it forward. A green knife wave gushed out, illuminating the dark sky of Song City. Stepping on the void, he flew toward the Golden Horn God clan. At the same time, his strange voice that could make people vomit blood arose again. Since you guys are so stubborn, I will send you all to hell today. This pig slaughtering knife hasn't seen blood for 10,000 years. Today I won't kill pigs. I will kill beasts. Chapter 372. One person against 100? This lunatic who just entered the martial saint realm wanted to fight hundreds of peak martial saints alone? It seemed like this person was crazy. He probably couldn't be cured. Did he think he could go against the heavens just because he was wearing a fake god of war robe, a broken bamboo hat, and a strange blade? Gene Chi's lips curled into a mocking smile as he watched the black-robed man charge towards his own people like a ferocious tiger. There were many lunatics with delusions in the divine realm. He didn't expect to meet one in this material plane. Thinking of the black-robed man's arrogance and rudeness, he couldn't help but smile cruelly. He couldn't wait to see his subordinates tear this lunatic into pieces. Thinking of the scene of blood splattering, limbs being separated, and minced meat flying in the air, he got a little excited. Looking at the hundreds of saint-leveled Golden Horn Holy Clan members charging at them with mountainous auras, the black-robed man started to counterattack. Looking at the devil's cloak fluttering in the wind, looking at the cyan blade wave that illuminated the sky, everyone on the Tsang City wall fell silent. Their expressions were very interesting. Many people were dumbfounded, such as Yi Tianlong, Yi Jian, and countless other experts from the four major families. This scene of 1 against 100 was so familiar. Many of them had done it before and seen it before. But what they were facing or seeing were powerful martial artists pouncing on a group of weaker martial artists. He had never seen a weak martial artist charge against a group of strong martial artists. Had the world gone mad? Had it become chaotic? This black-robed man was undoubtedly a human. Only the House of Ares and the Hidden Island had pure humans. Not to mention the Divine City. He was already in such a state. There probably wasn't such a promising person. The Hidden Island didn't seem possible either. Those gangsters and bandits didn't have the habit of helping people do good deeds. Moreover, they did good deeds without leaving their names. Then, was this person from the House of Ares? But this person had obviously just broken through to the Sage Realm. There weren't many peak Emperor Realm experts in the House of Ares. Dragon City and the 5 major families had a clear record of this. Moreover, all the peak Emperor Realm experts were in Tsang City. Then who was this person? Many people were confused, such as Yi Chong, Tian Qing, and the martial artists who had been to Luotian Mountain's Heaven's Path. This scene? Why did it feel so familiar? Of course, they didn't dare to think of the young man who went crazy at Mount Luotian. After all, even the legendary Tian Mai individual couldn't cultivate from the first level of the Emperor Realm to the first level of the Saint Realm in a few months. Still the same question. Who was this person? Yi Ruoxue frowned again. Saber Emperor smiled faintly, and Shui clan's ancestor was a little jealous. However, the 3 of them were clearly worried. Yi Ruoxue kept using her divine sense to scan the continent over and over again. She even scanned the rooftop of the dark castle. However, he couldn't find a red-clothed woman's figure, so he couldn't help but become even more worried. Looking at the ferocious demon cloak and the dazzling butcher knife, he, the Blade Emperor, and the ancestor of the Shui clan looked at each other. The 3 of them nodded at the same time, as if they had made some kind of decision. More than 200 members of the Golden Horn God clan were engulfed in black flames. The black, thick, and long horns on its head shone with a dark light. Looking at the black-robed man charging towards them, they didn't show any emotion. Since the young master said that he was a Saint Realm warrior, then he must be trash. To them, who were at the peak of the Saint Realm, all the Saint Realm warriors in the material plane were trash. Therefore, they ignored the black-robed man who was getting closer and closer. Only 3 of them charged towards the black-robed man, while the rest continued to charge forward. Their thick and strong legs didn't even tremble a little. "Hi, you bastards dare to look down on me? Take this move of mine. A butcher knife leaves no trace behind." The black-robed man's sharp and deep voice sounded again. The black-robed man directly charged towards the Golden Horn God clan. He didn't stop at all. It seemed like he wanted to fight them head-on. Golden Horn God of Destruction, go and die. The black horns on the heads of the 3 Golden Horn God clan flickered even more frequently. The corners of their mouths revealed a cruel and mocking smile. This puny human didn't even dodge when facing their golden horns. One must know that even a normal God realm expert wouldn't dare to take such an attack from the 3 of them. looking at the black-robed man charging towards them. The corners of the three's mouths curled up at the same time, revealing a sinister and wild smile. However, before their smiles could widen, they felt a sudden fluctuation in the space around the black-robed man, and this fluctuation quickly spread towards the space around the three of them. It was as if a stone had been thrown into a lake, causing ripples to appear. When the ripple was transmitted to their side, all of a sudden, a strange change occurred. They felt as if their advancing bodies had suddenly crashed into a wall, causing them to stop abruptly. However, this wasn't the most frightening thing. What frightened them the most was that they suddenly realized that they couldn't move. Then, they saw a bewitching purple light flash, and the three of them completely lost consciousness. When they regained consciousness, they were even more frightened. They found that their bodies seemed to be constantly floating. That's not right. It was their heads that were continuously falling down. They saw their opponent's head falling down as well. Their opponent's body, which was still standing upright, was constantly spewing out green blood. Then, all three of them lost consciousness at the same time. Shio! The Golden Horn God Clan members on both sides were still charging forward, but the Golden Horn God Clan members at the back suddenly stopped. They blinked their eyes at the same time, looking at the three bodies that were still spurting out blood, as well as the three heads with their eyes wide open on the ground. They were confused. What's going on? Without waiting for them to think clearly, the black-robed man continued charging forward. Then, a strange ripple appeared in the space, followed by a purple radiance. Then, the black-robed man easily walked through the center of the Golden Horn God Clan members who were standing there foolishly. His figure was very elegant. A strange saber emitting green saber waves directly slashed across the neck of the Golden Horn God Clan members. Then, the black-robed man didn't even look at them. The black-robed man continued moving forward. After a moment, the heads behind him slowly fell to the ground, green blood spurting out. The black-robed man's black demonic cloak and butcher knife charged forward like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he had already perfectly passed through the Golden Horn God Clan's formation. Only when he reached the back of the formation did he stop. Behind him was a row of headless bodies with blood spurting out, as well as countless heads with their eyes wide open. Drip, drip, drip. When the black-robed man was halfway through his charge, the Golden Horn God Clan members on both sides had already stopped. All of them stared at the black whirlwind in a daze as it blew past them. Until the last head fell to the ground, the entire place was silent, deathly silent. Only the sound of the black-robed man's demonic cloak fluttering in the wind, as well as the dripping sound of the butcher knife dripping blood. Drip, drip, drip. Blood continued to drip from the black-robed man's blade, dripping onto the ground. The yellow ground was dyed greenish-black, and the faces of the thousands of people in Song City were also dyed greenish-black. The sky above Song City seemed to have turned even darker. The wind was getting stronger, a storm seemed to be coming. Chapter 373. This pig slaughtering knife, leaving no trace for 1,000 li? This move was called pig slaughtering knife, leaving no trace for 1,000 li? Jinshi wasn't thinking about anything at this moment. Instead, he kept repeating the name of the move that the black-robed man had just mentioned. There was nothing wrong with the knife, but how could it not leave a trace? Wasn't there blood on the knife? Giving random names was not good. Giving random names was not right. Giving random names was very immoral. Yi Tianlong was even more confused. Yi Jian was even more confused. Everyone else was even more confused now. This situation was inexplicable. A first-level Saint Realm martial artist killed a peak Saint Realm martial artist as if he was slaughtering a pig? Had the world gone crazy? Was this the way of the world and not the way of the past? Countless people began to rub their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they still saw a ground full of corpses, the black man standing proudly, and the pig slaughtering knife dripping with blood. Yi Chong was even more confused. Tian Qing was even more confused. Of course, those who saw that youth at the Luotian Mountain were even more confused. The enchanting purple light was correct. The aura and methods of killing were also correct. However, they still couldn't believe it. Could that youth really be a Heaven Meridian expert? Or was there someone else in this world with the same skills as that youth? Otherwise, how could the spatial fluctuations be explained? How could this robe and this pig slaughtering knife be explained? Yi Ruashe, Saber Emperor, and old ancestor, Shui smiled. At this moment, they didn't release their divine senses to search for that woman. Instead, they exchanged glances. Their solemn expressions became even more resolute, and they held their weapons even tighter. As the last drop of blood dripped, the black-robed man slowly turned around without saying anything. He slightly raised his bamboo hat, and the Qilin mask on his face seemed to look even more ferocious. The wind was getting stronger and stronger, making his devil cloak flutter even louder. Swish! Raising the pig slaughtering knife in his hand, he dashed to the left again. Like a black whirlwind, he swept towards the golden horn celestial race on the left. Devil, he is a devil. The devil is here, run! Only when a few heads floated up did the golden horn celestial race awaken. Their faces turned dark green, and the tattoos on their faces stopped moving. Boundless fear and fear filled their eyes. They were afraid, and they began to run. The great golden horn holy tribe was not afraid of any battle, nor was it afraid of death. However, facing such a strange situation, they were afraid. Without hesitation, they ran away. Fear was the easiest thing to spread. Fear and madness were the same. Once they were infected, they would spread infinitely. If this black-robed man was stronger than them, they wouldn't be afraid. Instead, the death of their comrade would stimulate their blood type and cause them to go crazy. But the current situation was too strange. Only the legendary Nine Hells Fiends would have such methods. No, that's right. The frantically escaping Golden Horn God Race warriors had finally woken Jinshi up. At that moment, he understood many things. For instance, the name of this technique was definitely wrong. For instance, this black-robed man had definitely obtained a Soul Emperor treasure. It wasn't like he hadn't seen a situation where the weak slaughtered the strong. As the only son of the Blood King, he had seen many such things. But for those martial artists who could kill the strong with their weak strength, it was all because they had precious treasures on them. And in this material plane, precious treasures could only be found in the small divine pavilion left behind by the Soul Emperor in this plane's spatial turbulence. And the appearance of this war god robe was easy to explain. This black-robed man had obtained a precious treasure left behind by the Soul Emperor. Similarly, the purpose of this trip, the 12th sword, was definitely with this black-robed man. A precious treasure that could allow a first-level Sage Realm expert to easily kill a group of peak Sage Realm experts. What kind of treasure was it? Thinking of this, Jinshi suddenly burst into laughter. This shocked Yi Ruashui and the other two. They almost couldn't control themselves from teleporting. Ignoring Yi Ruashui and the other two, Jinshi coldly stared at the black-robed man and shouted at the escaping Golden Horn God Race warriors. You stupid pigs, he isn't a fiend. How could a Nine Hells Fiend appear in a material plane? He only obtained a treasure that could temporarily increase his strength. Listen up. As the young master of the Blood King City, I order you to kill him. Whoever dares to retreat, I will kill his entire family. Of course, whoever kills him, I will grant him a city in honor for generations. Kill his entire family? Grant him a city? The two completely different treatments made all the Golden Horn God Race warriors stop in their tracks of escape. But when they heard that their entire family would be killed, they didn't dare to run. But when they heard that they would be granted a city, they went crazy and started running back. The city that Jinshi was talking about was obviously not the Blood King City, but one of the 88 small cities under the Blood King City. But the small cities in the God Realm couldn't be compared to the small cities in the Fire Dragon continent. The small cities, there were dozens of times the size of the Fire Dragon plane. They were all Sage Realm experts. Normally, they were the lowest level warriors in their race. But now, they had the opportunity to become the master of a city. Of course, they went crazy and started to charge at the black-robed man. If they ran, they would die, and their entire family would die. If they advanced, they would have hope and glory. Anyone would choose the latter. A bunch of idiots. Aren't you afraid of death after being tricked? I will send all of you back. A pig slaughtering with a knife, leaving no trace in 1,000 miles. When the black-robed man saw this, he stopped chasing after the golden horn god race warriors and murmured to himself. His hand gently wiped the blade that was covered with greenish-black blood. Then, he waved his hand abruptly. A cyan saber wave was spurted out and resolutely rushed towards the red-eyed golden horn god clansman. Below Tsang City, a black whirlwind started to blow again, making the wind that was getting stronger and stronger. Whoosh! Blood and heads flew everywhere under Tsang City. The space above Tsang City suddenly trembled, and two people appeared out of nowhere. The cold and elegant Yu Shishui and the white-haired, white-bearded Spear Emperor appeared above Tsang City's gate at the same time. Lil Yi, congratulations. Brother Ruoshui, congratulations. The two instantly appeared above Tsang City and looked at the black-robed man with deep meaning. At the same time, they transmitted a message to Yi Ruoshui. Lord Devour isn't in the Darkness Castle. I can't find him. Yi Ruoshui didn't turn around, nor did she look happy. Instead, she had a serious expression on her face as she transmitted a message to the two of them. Yu Shishui and the Spear Emperor's expressions simultaneously changed. They didn't say anything, but they closed their eyes and spread their divine senses out to scan the continent. However, after they scanned the area a few times, especially when they scanned the empty rooftop of the Dark Castle, their expressions turned ugly at the same time. Their divine senses attracted Jin Shi's attention, especially Yu Shishui, who had just become a deity not too long ago. She wasn't very familiar with her divine sense, so the ripples she caused were much stronger. Their dark expressions didn't escape Jin Shi's notice. He muttered to himself for a moment, then began to spread out his divine sense. After a few rounds of probing, his expression suddenly changed and became very complicated. That terrifying woman wasn't in the castle, and she wasn't in the Flame Dragon realm either. What was going on? Had that woman left the Flame Dragon realm? Or was she hiding? Jin Shi was extremely confident in his divine sense. He firmly believed that even if that woman was a god emperor, there was no way she could hide so well that he couldn't detect her. As he watched more and more of his clansmen's heads float into the air, and as that butcher's knife danced around more and more, he gritted his teeth and made a decision. I'll bet. I'll go all out. Jin, sure. All of you prepare to activate the teleportation array. Once I succeed, I'll immediately teleport back to the God realm. After making up his mind, he didn't hesitate to send a message to the 4 peak heavenly gods. Jin Shi and the others didn't know what their young master was going to do, but Jin Shi had already given the order. Without any hesitation, they took out a triangular black stone from their spatial ring. This was something the Blood King had prepared to protect Jin Shi's life. It was an emergency teleportation array. As long as the 4 of them crushed the triangular stone at the same time, a teleportation array would appear in the sky and take them straight to the Blood King city. Die for this daddy. Under the terrified gazes of Yi Ruoshui and the others, Jin Shi's figure suddenly teleported. In the next second, he appeared next to the black-robed man below, a sinister smile on his face. He immediately activated his god domain and enveloped the black-robed man. At the same time, a wave of golden flames shot towards the black-robed man, trying to burn him to ashes. No! Yi Ruoshui roared. The 5 heavenly gods in the sky above Tsang City emitted white flames at the same time, then disappeared from the sky above Tsang City. Chapter 374. Jin Shi wanted to gamble. This divine sword was very important to both his father and his uncle, because this divine sword was one of the keys to enter the Soul Emperor Pavilion, which was the #1 treasure trove in the divine realm. The Soul Emperor was the most important person in the divine realm. His treasures were undoubtedly the most important. However, this wasn't the most important thing. In the end, Jin Shi made up his mind to let the black-robed man, who was at the initial stage of the Martial Saint level, instantly kill a bunch of Martial Saint level treasures. This treasure was so magical that it was a supreme treasure even in the divine realm. Even if he got the divine sword, it would belong to his father and uncle. Whatever he got from the Soul Emperor Pavilion would belong to his uncle and father. But the black-robed man's supreme treasure was different. He got it, so it would belong to him. So he did not hesitate to let the four-peak heavenly god treasures activate the teleportation formation. He teleported and burned the black-robed man to ashes with his flames. As for the divine sword and the supreme treasure in the black-robed man's spatial ring, he was not worried. His flames did not have the ability to melt those treasures. When Jinshi moved, Yi Ruoshui also moved. Lord Devour was not here. The five of them could not watch the hope of the House of Ares, or the black-robed man, who could bring hope to the fire dragon plane die. So from the beginning, Yi Ruoshui, Saber Emperor, and Ancestor Shui had decided that if Jinshi attacked, the three of them would protect the black-robed man at all costs. But they did not expect that Jinshi would not care about his own life. He was not afraid that Lord Devour would smash him to pieces. He did not let his subordinates do it, but did it himself. Although it was different from what they had expected, the five of them did not waver. They teleported. They decided to use their lives to exchange for the black-robed man's survival. Kid, let the protector of the god-slaying mountain take you to Purple Island. You can take revenge for us when you break through to the god realm. The five of them ignited with flames. Before teleporting, they sent messages to the black-robed man. When they appeared again, they were between the black-robed man and Jinshi. The white flames on their bodies were even more intense. They were about to use their bodies to resist the attack. Wait! The black-robed man could not stay calm anymore. He shouted. His voice was not sharp and deep like before. It was a young man's voice. He shouted urgently, Lord, the alien race violated the rules first. Why don't you act? Lord, make a move? Jinshi and Yi Ruoshui were startled at the same time. A trace of fear appeared on Jinshi's face. However, he didn't hesitate and continued to shoot the golden flame in his hand forward. At that moment, the five of them were delighted. However, seeing that Jinshi did not stop attacking, they had no choice but to continue emitting white flames toward the golden flames. Buzz! All of a sudden, a ray of gentle white light suddenly lit up, illuminating the entire sky of Song City. This light was very warm, very cozy, and very comfortable, so much so that no one in Song City wanted to move. No, it wasn't that he didn't want to move, but that he couldn't. Yi Tianlong's eyes widened in horror. Yi Jian's mouth was still wide open. Yi Chong found that he couldn't open his eyes. The four-peak heavenly gods of the Golden Horn Celestial Clan found that they couldn't move their hands that were about to crush the triangular divine stone. Jinshi's golden flames were still suspended in midair, while the white flames on Yi Ruoshui and the others' bodies were still burning. The black-robed man's pig-slaughtering knife had a drop of greenish-black blood at the tip of the knife. It wanted to drip down, but it couldn't. The entire world was quiet. The entire world seemed to have stopped. It was as if time had stopped at this moment. The clouds in the sky stopped drifting, the wind stopped blowing, and the raindrops that were about to fall also stopped falling. A huge face appeared in midair once again. It was a blurry yet clear face. It was a woman's face. Not many people in the god world dare to violate the rules that I set. Your big uncle doesn't dare. Your father doesn't dare. But you dare to violate it? A faintly discernible voice suddenly resounded. Sometimes it was near, sometimes it was vicissitude, and sometimes it was young. It was very strange. The voice wasn't loud, but it sounded like it was ringing in the ears of thousands of people. Everyone could hear it clearly. After the voice finished speaking, a gentle breeze blew from the huge face, brushing past everyone. Those who were brushed by the breeze suddenly realized that they could move. When the breeze brushed past Jinshi, the golden flames on his body disappeared without a sound. When it brushed past Yi Ruoshui and the others, the white flames on their bodies also disappeared. The clouds in the sky continued to drift, the wind blew, and the raindrops continued to fall. Drip, drip, drip. The entire place resumed its tranquility. The only sound was the sound of blood dripping from the butcher's knife. The ticking sound rang in everyone's ears and hearts, causing everyone's hearts to palpitate at the same time. Sir, I was wrong. Give me a chance. I will return to the god world now. I will never come to the fire dragon plane again. Please don't kill me. Give me a chance. Give my big uncle face. My big uncle will remember this favor. Jinqi's face turned ashen. He directly kneeled in the air, kowtowing unceasingly to the massive face. He knew that the massive face had appeared one more time, and he didn't have a chance anymore. Similarly, he could fall today, vanishing from this world. No one can go against my will. You can't. Your father can't. Your big uncle can't. Lord Devour pondered for a while. His voice was emotionless, as if he was talking about something trivial. Crippled Emperor? Jin can? I'll give him face. He's an important person. If I don't give him face, he's nothing. So, you can die now. After saying that, the huge face changed again and turned into a beautiful crystal clear palm. Slowly and lightly, it flew towards Jinqi. Its speed was slow, but it reached Jinqi in the blink of an eye. It grabbed Jinqi in its palm, then it exerted a little force. Like a clay doll, Jinqi was pinched by that beautiful palm, turning into specks of dust that floated down from the sky. There was no minced meat, no blood, and not even a divine crystal. Everything had turned into dust. It seemed slow, but it happened very fast. Actually, from Jinqi's teleportation to Yi Ruoshui's teleportation, the black-cloaked man's roar, the massive face's appearance, and Jinqi turning into dust, only a few blinks had passed. Young master, until Jinqi turned into dust, the four-peak heavenly god realm experts finally got themselves together. When the massive face appeared in the god city, they had used their soul consciousness to sense that Jin Kuan had been smashed into a puddle of blood. However, they hadn't seen it directly. This was the first time they saw it, so they were bewildered. Then, they pulled themselves together. Their faces changed as they screamed in pain. You guys can go to the god world now. Tell the crippled emperor that I killed him. If you're not convinced, you can come and find me. I'm Devour. The massive face said before disappearing in the sky of Song City. Devour? Devour. Dancing butterfly, war god? When the four-peak heavenly god realm experts heard this name, they were a little confused. Eventually, they thought of something. Their faces changed again. They opened their eyes wide, looking at the place where the massive face had disappeared. They shivered. After a while, their faces turned ashen. Without a word, they crushed the triangular stones in their hands. A seven-colored radiance lit up the sky, and a black hole slowly appeared in the radiance. As for the four deity-level Golden Horn Holy Clan members, they directly teleported and brought the remaining dozens of Martial Saint-level Golden Horn Holy Clan members into the black hole. Finally, with a flash of light, they disappeared into the sky. It's done. I'm going now. The dead silence outside Song City was once again broken by a sharp and low voice. The black-cloaked man lifted his bamboo hat and nodded at Yi Ruoshui. He then waved his butcher knife in the air and sheathed it before disappearing. Citizens of the House of Ares, the battle has ended. We have won. Yi Ruoshui looked at the corpses and broken limbs on the ground. She smiled bitterly. She raised her hands and shouted, "Won? What?" The invincible god of war will never surrender. Following Yi Ruoshui's shout, the 1,000-plus people on the Song City wall raised their hands. Tears streamed down their faces as they shouted excitedly. Their voices reverberated throughout Song City. Chapter 375. Whoosh! The heavy rain finally came. The sky that had been oppressive for a long time began to clear up after the heavy rain. The thousands of martial artists on the city walls did not find a place to hide from the rain, nor did they use their battle chi to evaporate the rainwater on their bodies. Instead, they quietly began to clean up the battlefield and collect the corpses under the leadership of the supreme elders of the major families. In the heavy rain, countless people stepped on the mud, stepping on the red and greenish-black blood, and began to pile up all the corpses. They collected the broken flesh and limbs on the ground and sent the countless weapons and broken armors back to Tsang City. After a period of busy work, they finally finished cleaning up the battlefield before the sky was completely dark. Black oil was poured on the corpses, and countless torches were thrown onto them. 2 blazing fires were lit outside Tsang City, illuminating the entire city. At the same time, it also illuminated the thousands of people gathered in front of the fire on the left. Hundreds of elite seeds from the back mountain of the Yi family castle had already arrived here. Everyone in Tsang City who could still stand up was here. Everyone looked solemnly at the bones and limbs that were gradually turning black in the fire. At the same time, she placed one hand on her chest, raised her head slightly, closed her eyes, and silently prayed. The invincible god of war will never yield. Rest in peace. Following Yi Ruoshui's angry roar, a loud roar sounded outside Tsang City. The roar pierced through the sky and reverberated through the earth. It was filled with sorrow, nostalgia, and blessings. At that moment, the rain finally stopped. The strong wind stopped blowing, and the dark clouds in the sky slowly faded. The bright moon revealed its shy face, and the earth was once again enveloped in a peaceful and tranquil atmosphere. There were a few people who did not attend the funeral outside Tsang City. Yu Qingcheng, Yi Qingwu, and Yi Qingyu looked worriedly at Yi Qinghan, who was lying quietly on the white jade bed. Elder Lu, who was beside him, was examining him with his eyes closed. Just a moment ago, the 3 of them were still waiting anxiously in the carefree pavilion. Suddenly, they saw Yi Qinghan, who had been out for a long time, appear again. He was wearing a strange robe, holding a Qilin mask in his hand and a strange knife at his waist. He smiled at the 3 of them, but suddenly fainted on the ground. The 3 of them were shocked. They hurriedly carried Yi Qinghan into the room and were about to look for Elder Lu. However, Elder Lu had already found out and teleported over. What do you think? Elder Lu, is little Han all right? Yi Qingwu, who had been staring at Elder Lu, asked anxiously when he suddenly opened his eyes. Yu Qingcheng and Yi Qingyu also fixed their eyes on Elder Lu. It's not a big deal, but the child was too desperate. He used up too much of his soul and fell into a deep coma. I'll give him some soul-nourishing elixirs, and he'll be fine after resting for half a month. Elder Lu shook his head and sighed as he looked at Yi Qinghan's pale face with some pity. At the same time, he took out a green herb from his spatial ring and pried open Yi Qinghan's mouth. A gentle white light emitted from his hand, and the herb turned into drops of green liquid, which dripped into Yi Qinghan's mouth. Well, take good care of him in the carefree pavilion. There's nothing else to worry about outside, so don't worry about him. Elder Lu said and teleported away. After Yi Ruoshui finished the funeral, she signaled for everyone to go back and rest. Everything would be discussed the next day. She and the other 4 returned to the small cave where she had secluded herself. The apocalyptic calamity has finally passed, and the war god manor has been saved. It's just a pity that Big Brother Sword Emperor and nearly 1,000 warriors have died. Big Brother Saber Emperor and Spear Emperor, please don't be too sad. Yiruvik, who sat on the main seat, sighed deeply and turned to speak to everyone. We're not sad. Big Brother died with a smile. Now that the calamity is over, he can probably go to the underworld with a smile. The Spear Emperor was not as sad after returning from outside. The Sword Emperor died, but his death was worthwhile. If anyone else present could exchange their lives for the continuation of the human race in the House of Ares, they would not hesitate to die. I suggest that we build a Hall of Martyrs outside of Tsang City to commemorate Big Brother Sword Emperor and the countless brave warriors who sacrificed themselves. At the same time, we will compile a list of the warriors who died tomorrow and give their families the greatest amount of compensation. The Yu clan will pay for all the expenses. After all, the Yu clan did not put in much effort this time, Yu Shishue said calmly. He began to consider the issue of compensation after the war. The experts of the Yu clan were all experts in soul-type cultivation, and none of them were at the peak of the Saint Realm. They would not be of much use in this war, so they did not send anyone to Tsang City. Yes, not only do we need to build a hall of martyrs, but we also need to record all the people who contributed to this war into the annals of the House of Ares. We need Big Brother Sword Emperor and the others to be remembered for generations to come, forever engraved in the hearts of the disciples of the House of Ares. The Shui clan's ancestor suggested once again. Obviously, this suggestion was unanimously agreed upon. Who didn't want their names to be remembered for generations to come? The Sword Emperor and the others, on the other hand, had to be recorded in the annals of history. Otherwise, how could they repay their contributions? Oh, that's right. Do you want to record that kid from your clan? He came out with his face covered. Could it be that he has some hidden trouble? The Saber Emperor asked. The five of them had immediately used their divine sense to detect the black-robed man as soon as he appeared. They had investigated the #1 expert on the Earth rankings, Yi Qinghan, before, so they recognized him. Yi Qinghan had contributed greatly to this war. It could be said that he was second only to the Sword Emperor. If his name was recorded in the annals of history, or if his identity was made known, his name would definitely shake the entire continent. Ignoring his age, just the fact that he was able to instantly kill a group of peak saints while only at the first level of the saint realm was enough to shake the entire continent. However, Yi Qinghan had appeared with his face covered, and he had even purposely changed his voice. He had even hidden his signature blade and used a butcher's knife. It was obvious that Yi Qinghan didn't want to reveal his identity. At least, he didn't want too many people to know that the black-robed man was him. I don't know the reason either. I don't even know where he is now. This kid has too many secrets. He must have his reasons for hiding his identity. We will help him hide this matter for the time being. When he appears in the future, I will ask him properly. A trace of pride flashed in Yi Ruoshui's eyes. However, it disappeared in a flash. She then said, the few of them nodded at the same time. They didn't pursue Yi Qinghan's secrets. Yi Qinghan was related to that powerful woman from the Dark Forest. So, it wasn't strange for him to have some secrets. Yes, this kid's future is boundless. I think we should tell him the secret of the Fire Dragon continent. Whether the continent can be saved or not, I think we can only rely on him. This kid has brought us too many miracles. I hope he can walk out of this dead well in the end. Then, the Fire Dragon continent will have a bright future. The Saber Emperor suddenly said as he recalled the black whirlwind outside that Song City. Yes, this kid is so abnormal. Moreover, he has such a relationship with that person in the castle. If he can't save the continent, I think it's even more impossible to rely on us old things. The old ancestor of the Shui family nodded. His eyes flickered as if he had seen a glimmer of hope. Good. When he comes back, we will talk to him in detail. As for how far he can go in the end, it depends on the arrangement of the heavens. Yi Ruoshui saw that the four of them were looking at him expectantly. So, she made the final decision. Chapter 376. After the torrential rain, the 13 streets of Song City were all washed clean, looking extremely comfortable. At this time, the moon hung high in the sky, dyeing the entire Song City white. There were only 1,000 or so people in Song City tonight, all gathered in the square outside the city lord's residence. The Yi family's experts tirelessly moved large amounts of cooked food from the Yi family castle, as well as large amounts of strong alcohol, and started drinking in the square. It wasn't because they were hungry, nor was it because they were tired. It was because they had suffered too much today, and they needed a relaxed atmosphere to ease their nerves. They needed strong alcohol to ease their moods. There were no chairs, no maids, and everyone just lit a few bonfires in the square. The people split into countless groups, holding wine jars and lamb legs, sat on the stone slabs, and started eating and drinking to their heart's content. At first, no one said anything. They all silently drank, ate, and stared blankly at the bonfires. However, as more and more alcohol was drunk, people in the square started whispering, which quickly spread. In the end, as more and more alcohol was drunk, the square gradually became more lively. Some people started crying bitterly, some started laughing wildly, some started cursing, and some started praying. The square was filled with noise and excitement. After crying and cursing, Everyone felt much better. Some emotions that had been suppressed for a long time needed to be vented out. Otherwise, they would be suffocated. After venting, some people hugged their wine jars and fell into a deep sleep, while others started discussing what had happened today in low voices. They talked about the Sword Emperor's self-destruction, the giant face in the sky, the black whirlwind, and the blood-dripping butcher knife. Who was that giant face? Who was the owner of that butcher knife? They had heard of the terrifying giant face and could roughly guess. However, after seeing it face to face and feeling its unparalleled might, they thought that they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. No one dared to talk about the giant face, and they just exclaimed in shock. However, the owner of that butcher knife became the topic of discussion for most of the people present. A strange voice, strange attire, elegant figure, tyrannical strength, and miraculous performance. They were deeply shaken to the core and overturned their previous understanding. Some people had some guesses, such as Yi Chang, the experts who had been to the god-slaying mountain's heaven's path, Yi Jian, and the elders of the Yi family. That was because in the instant that Yi Ruoshui and the others were about to self-detonate, the strange voice was no longer strange. Instead, it was the voice of a young man, a voice they were all familiar with. It was Yi Qinghan's voice. More importantly, that bewitching purple light was too obvious. This was Yi Qinghan's signature skill. Presumably, no one in this world could possess it. After all, there was only one soul-devouring beast. However, they still didn't dare to confirm it. After all, this news was too shocking, so shocking that they didn't dare to believe it. A 21-year-old saint whose overall strength was invincible below the god level. This was a strength that even the heavenly meridians that appeared in history did not have. This was simply a miraculous existence. Everyone listen up. Today's matter regarding that Lord and the Black-Robed Man are forbidden to discuss or spread. Otherwise, we will be hunted down by the entire House of Aries. This is a decision made by the five of us. Remember, at this moment, a calm voice rang out in the square, completely suppressing the discussions of the crowd. They all recognized this voice. It was Yi Ruoshui's voice. Everyone in the square shut their mouths immediately. It wasn't that they were afraid of Yi Ruoshui, but they respected the will of the five god-level experts and the will of the guardian of the House of Aries. In the next few days, the entire Tsang City started to get busy. The original residents of Tsang City were sent back, and the warriors of the Yi family started to gather in Tsang City. A huge hall of martyrs was built outside Tsang City. Countless people started to flock to Tsang City. Some came to pay their respects to the battlefield. Some came from the families and clansmen of the fallen warriors. They went to Tsang City to pay their respects to their dead relatives and to receive the sympathy of the House of Aries. Tsang City was filled with a large number of carriages every day. The official road outside the city had a few deep wheel marks. 10 days later, Yi Qinghan finally woke up. However, his body was still a little weak. Under the insistence of the three ladies, he was not allowed to get out of bed. He spent his days recuperating in his room. Yi Qinghan asked Elder Lu. There was nothing important in Tsang City now, so he was not in a hurry to go out. Anyway, he had disappeared for so many days. It didn't matter if he disappeared for a few more days. He spent his days with the three ladies in the carefree pavilion, immersing himself in the warmth of his home. It was a happy and romantic life. On this day, Yi Qinghan had completely recovered. He had just snuck away from the three ladies and visited Dark Moon in her room. Dark Moon was still in a deep sleep. Although she looked fine, Yi Qinghan still felt a pang of heartache. All right, I'll take care of this child. She's fine. Your injuries are almost healed. If you don't go out now, I'm afraid your ancestor will scold you. Just as he was pondering whether he should tell Yi Qingyu and the others about Dark Moon, Elder Lu sent him a voice transmission. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose and glanced at Dark Moon again. He walked out and appeared in the Cold Heart Pavilion with the three ladies. The Cold Heart Pavilion looked the same. It was beautiful and exuded a faint fragrance. However, Cui Hua and the others had not been sent back. There was no one in the pavilion. Little Han, come to the back of the mountain. As expected, Yi Ruoshui's voice transmission reached Yi Qinghan's ears before he could even warm his seat. After explaining to the three of them, Yi Qinghan headed to the back of the mountain where the Yi clan was located. After teleporting a few times, he was already standing beside the small lake in the back of the mountain. The moment he appeared beside the lake, three figures flew over from the distance. They were Yi Tianlong and the two ladies. The three of them were obviously wounded. Yi Qinghan's injuries were the most serious. Many parts of his body were wrapped in white cloth. When Yi Qinghan saw them, he hurriedly bowed and asked about their injuries with concern. "Greetings, grandpas. How are your injuries? Nothing serious, right? Ah, good lad. Well done. We won't die yet. Don't worry." Yi Tianlong's rigid face was filled with an excited smile. He waved his hand and forcefully patted Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Unexpectedly, he touched his wounds, causing him to grin bitterly and hoarsely. Looking at the situation, the three of them had obviously obtained the exact situation from Yi Ruoshui. They understood that the black-robed man that they had been guessing about was actually their clan's Yi Qinghan. How could they not be excited? "Little Han, I didn't misjudge you. I'm extremely satisfied with you as my grandson-in-law." Yi Qinghu also wanted to raise his hand, but many parts of his body were wrapped. He could only raise and lower his hand, grinning widely. "Xiao." Just when Yi Baihu wanted to say something, the space suddenly fluctuated. Yi Ruoshui teleported over. The eyes under the two white eyebrows were full of smiles. "All right, the three of you rest well. We'll talk later. I have something to discuss with little Han." With that, she teleported with Yi Qinghan, bringing him to the cave where they were cultivating. Upon entering the cave, he discovered that the Saber Emperor, the Spear Emperor, and Yu Shishui were all smiling at him. Yi Qinghan pays his respects to the four seniors. Yi Qinghan didn't recognize the three of them. He had only seen them once outside Song City. However, he knew that these three were the deity-tier elites of the House of Aries, so he hurriedly bowed respectfully. "You're welcome, our little hero," the Saber Emperor said with a smile. Saber Emperor said with a smile. Then, he waved his hand and arranged a domain that enveloped the entire cave. Only then did he stand up. At the same time, the other three also stood up, standing side by side with Yi Ruoshui. The five of them had extremely serious expressions on their faces. Saber Emperor took out 3 red tokens from his bosom and handed them over to Yi Qinghan in a solemn manner. "Today I called you here for 2 things. The first is that the 5 of us represent the billions of citizens of the House of Aries to thank you for everything you have done for the House of Aries. You, Yi Qinghan, are the hero of the House of Aries. You saved the House of Aries. On behalf of the House of Aries, I bestow upon you 3 War God Blood tokens. You have the right to order the strongest cultivators of the continent to do anything that doesn't violate common sense. Of course, this includes the 5 of us." Chapter 377. All right. Thank you, everyone. Yi Qinghan accepted the 3 blood badges of the divine battle god without hesitation. These were good items. Back then, Yi Tianlong had relied on these items to rally the masses and slaughter his way to Heavenly Demon City. He wasn't going to take them, but he wasn't going to take them. When the Saber Emperor saw that Yi Qinghan had accepted the items, he glanced at Yi Ruoshui and the others. The 5 of them nodded, then bowed deeply to Qinghan. The Saber Emperor bowed and said in a low voice, "The second matter is that we would like to ask you a favor on behalf of the citizens of the Flame Dragon Continent." "Ah, this? What are the 5 of you doing? Hurry up and rise." Yi Qinghan was playing with the 3 War God's blood medallions when he suddenly saw the 5 people bowing to him respectfully. What a joke! One of these 5 was his ancestor, while the other was his wife's ancestor. Would he dare to accept their bow? That would shorten his lifespan. He hurriedly jumped up and was about to help them up. "Yi Qinghan, if you don't agree, we won't get up," the Saber Emperor said seriously, refusing to get up. The 5 of them seemed to have steeled their hearts and continued to bow. Even Yi Ruoshui and Yu Shishui were silent, as if waiting for Yi Qinghan's response. "I agree. I agree to anything. Is that okay? Yi Qinghan's expression became bitter. They were basically forcing him onto the path of death. His ancestor and 4 people who could be his ancestors were begging him like this. Even if they wanted him to challenge that Baldy in the Divine City, he had no choice but to do so. Yes, I thank you on behalf of the entire Fire Dragon continent. If you can succeed in this matter, you will be the savior of the entire Fire Dragon continent. The 5 people stood up at the same time. They didn't look unnatural at all. Instead, they looked at Yi Qinghan with gratitude. Wait, the Flame Dragon continent? What does this have to do with the Flame Dragon continent? Yi Qinghan surreptitiously glanced at Yi Ruoshui and Yu Shishui. When he discovered that the 2 of them weren't embarrassed in the slightest, he twisted his body and asked in surprise. His heart was pounding. How could the Flame Dragon continent be a small matter? It seemed like these 5 old fellows were going to give him a heavy burden. At the same time, he was also very puzzled. Nothing big happened in the Fire Dragon continent. Now, the foreign races had either been killed or retreated. The continent was at peace. What we beg of you is that you must do your best to save the Fire Dragon continent. Saber Emperor pondered for a while and said in a serious manner. The more Yi Qinghan heard, the more confused he became. Save the Fire Dragon continent? Why rescue? Can you make it clearer? What was wrong with the continent? Everything seems to be fine on the continent, right? Wrong. At this moment, Yi Ruoshui, who had been silent the entire time, suddenly spoke. His eyes flashed with a trace of humiliation and anger, and he became extremely agitated. You said that the continent is peaceful, but that's all on the surface. It's all an illusion. Let me explain it to you this way. The Flame Dragon continent originally belonged to the people of the Flame Dragon continent, but after the first world-destroying battle thousands of years ago, the Flame Dragon continent no longer belonged to us. We are now just a bunch of livestock that can be killed and played with as they please. When Yi Ruoshui finished speaking, he seemed to have triggered a memory in the hearts of the 5 of them. A trace of sorrow, a trace of pain, a trace of humiliation, and a trace of grief and indignation appeared on their faces. The continent isn't ours? We're livestock that's been reared? Yi Qinghan looked at their expressions as he repeated Yi Ruoshui's words. A few thousand years ago? The world-destroying battle? He vaguely understood, but he didn't dare to be sure. He asked, Ancestor, do you mean the Divine City? The Divine City reared the people of the continent, but the Divine City doesn't seem to care much about the continent. He don't care? The corner of Yi Ruoshui's mouth curled into a cold smile. She shook her head slightly and continued. The history you know and the surface you see are all illusions. You have to be clear that history is often rewritten by the victors. The 3 races fought endlessly for thousands of years. *T. In the world-destroying battle, to suppress the experts of the 3 races, facilitated the 3 races' peaceful coexistence, and made a blood oath together? *T. The Divine City won't interfere with the internal affairs of the 3 races. The more Yi Ruoshui spoke, the more agitated she became. She even cursed. Let me tell you, the Flame Dragon continent has always been peaceful for thousands of years. Think about it, there were so many God-rank experts on the continent. Once a war broke out, would the continent still exist? There were so many peak God-rank experts on the continent, and there were countless of them. How could Tu suppress them all? Do you really think he has the aura of a bastard? Intimidate the 4 seas with a single move? Not interfere with internal affairs? How did you encounter danger in the prefecture battle? When Sky Dragon brought people to the Heaven Demon City, why did the 4 guards of the Divine City come? What's the truth of the matter? The more Yi Qinghan thought about it, the more he felt it made sense. Because he knew one more thing, the matter of the Soul Seed. This was obviously a secret force of the Divine City. Obviously, there were many of them in the Divine City. These people were monitoring the situation of the continent. Saber Emperor interrupted. The truth of the matter is very simple. Tu is the lord of the Flame Dragon Plane. He had mastered the Fire Dragon continent's encyclopedia of life and death. He sent people to cause a war between the 3 races. Then he single-handedly killed dozens of god-rank experts on the continent, forcing all the experts of the continent to submit. They had no choice but to sign the Undercity Alliance. Moreover, he set the rules of the prefecture battle. It's a battle every 30 years. In fact, it's not to resolve the dispute between the three races. Instead, he's collecting the souls of the dead to cultivate dark evil techniques and to refine the soul pill. Every 30 years, a new generation has just grown up. Then they have to go to the Nether Island to die. He's treating the people of the Flame Dragon continent like animals. Every 30 years, when the animals grow up, he'll kill them. Prefecture battle? That's right. Yi Qinghan suddenly realized something. During the prefecture battle, he discovered a strange phenomenon on the Scarlet Plains. People couldn't help but have a bloodthirsty impulse on the Scarlet Plains. The more they killed, the crazier they became. It was as if the atmosphere there had a strange magical power that made people want to kill. Moreover, every time a battle ended, the sky above the Scarlet Plains would suddenly become windy and gloomy. It turned out that someone was playing tricks. Someone was using a special method or formation to collect souls. He had always been curious why the prefecture battle happened every 30 years, and why the elite prefecture battle and the chaotic prefecture battle alternated. Now that Saber Emperor mentioned it, he understood. This was Tu's plan to raise people. Not only would the population of the continent not shrink, but it would also maintain a balance. Moreover, the prefecture battle every 30 years would make the hatred between the three races deeper and deeper. He could easily collect the largest number of souls every 30 years. If he killed everyone at once, he could only get tens of millions of souls. But now, he could have an endless supply of souls to collect. The people of the continent had become pigs raised by Tuesday. When the piglets grew up, half of the breeding pigs and piglets would be slaughtered. Then the remaining breeding pigs and piglets would continue to give birth. After a period of time, the piglets would grow up and be slaughtered again. This cycle would continue endlessly. What? Why didn't anyone kill Tu? Go and resist. Although Tu is a peak deity, with so many experts risking their lives, they should be able to kill him. Yi Qinghan thought it was inconceivable. Tu had descended on the continent for thousands of years. He had experienced the prefecture battle more than 1,000 times. Tens of millions of people had died. Why didn't anyone resist? In the past, there were so many deities on the continent. Even if they weren't a match for him, dozens of deities could still kill him by self-detonation. Why didn't anyone resist? There were at least 100 deity rank experts from the continent, and they all charged into the divine city, but in the end, none of them survived. Because Tu was the overlord of the Flame Dragon Plane. Therefore, he had a mystical ability that the divine world had bestowed upon him. Overlord's will. Anyone with the aura of the Flame Dragon Plane would have their strength reduced by 1/10 in front of him. How do you think this battle would be fought? Those who would only be throwing their lives away. 1/10? No wonder. How could the overlords will be so terrifying? Yi Qinghan recalled what Elder Lu had said. If they were in the divine world, he would have a 5% chance of defeating Tuesday. But in the Flame Dragon Plane, even 10 of him wouldn't be a match for Tuesday. It seemed like Elder Lu had stayed at the God-slaying mountain for thousands of years and already had the aura of the Flame Dragon Plane. But Lord Devour had also stayed there for a long time. Why could she defeat Tu so easily? How was she so powerful? After figuring out everything, he understood why the 5 of them were so agitated and indignant. The 5 of them had lived on the Flame Dragon continent for thousands of years and had developed deep feelings for it. Every 30 years, they would see hundreds of thousands of people fighting on Nether Island. Finally, they would turn into wisps of resentful souls that were collected by Tu for cultivation and alchemy. This resentment had accumulated over the years. Wouldn't they be angry? Wouldn't they be sad? Of course not. There's one more thing I haven't figured out. What can I do? Even if I cultivate to the divine realm, I might not be able to kill Tuesday. Didn't you say that he has the Overlord's will? Although he had figured out the matter, he was still very doubtful. Could he do something that countless experts couldn't do for thousands of years? We don't want you to kill Tu, and you can't kill him. because he is the overlord recognized by the divine world. Once the divine world finds out that he is killed, the divine world's law enforcement team will kill everyone in the flame dragon plane. This is what Lord Devour said. What we want you to do is to cultivate to the divine realm, then go to Purple Island and challenge the last barrier. Finally, you will reach the divine world and find a way to become the overlord of the flame dragon plane. In this way, you can kill two openly and save the flame dragon plane. Saber Emperor said as he bowed deeply again. Why me? Can't you guys go to the divine world? Yi Qinghan helped Saber Emperor up and asked again. We can't, because Tu has sealed the flame dragon plane. For thousands of years, no one has broken through this dead well and gone to the divine world. Yi Ruoxue shook her head slowly and revealed a trace of disappointment on her face. In the last barrier of Purple Island, he got a powerful peak-level divine beast from the divine world. The flame dragon plane lacks vitality. If the divine world's experts want to cultivate to the peak, they need at least tens of thousands of years. That year, all the peak-level divine realm experts were killed by Tuesday. But you're different, because you have the divine beast soul devouring beast and the abnormal body fusion battle skill. You have the highest hope of walking out of this dead well. You will pierce through the sky of the flame dragon continent and break through the blue dome of heaven. Chapter 378 *T. Listening to them, Yi Qinghan cursed under his breath, keeping silent. These old things had set up a trap for him. They had put a heavy burden on his shoulders that made it hard for him to breathe. He had never thought of himself as Spider-Man or Superman. He didn't have a sense of justice. He had to save the continent and its people as his responsibility. He was just a simple man who wanted to live a comfortable and happy life. In his previous life, he hadn't had such a comfortable life. In this life, he had transmigrated to this world, but he was a good-for-nothing. He didn't believe in heaven or fate. With the help of the soul ring his father had left him, he had summoned Xiaohei. He had put his life on the line, endured the extreme pain, and risked his life time and time again. Finally, he had become an outstanding man, the top expert of the continent. He had several peerless beauties, his own home, and his own happy life. He had never wanted to be the savior of the continent. What did the people of the continent have to do with him? He just wanted to protect his women and his family. He wanted to live a happy and comfortable life. However, these old fogies had given him a mission that many people of the continent had struggled for thousands of years. It was a mission that he had to struggle for the rest of his life. Lord Devour had given him a mission to become a god in 50 years. Old Lu had also given him a mission to become a god in 50 years. It wasn't a big deal. It was related to his life and his treasures. He could fight and work hard for it. But now, he was given a *T mission to fight for the fiery dragon continent for the rest of his life. He didn't have a strong sense of belonging to the fiery dragon continent. On this continent, the people he cared about were too few. If something happened to the people he cared about, he could fight and risk his life for them. But now, he remembered that they hadn't said anything definite. They just asked him to try his best. Moreover, there was his ancestor and his wife's ancestor in front of him. He didn't go berserk. He pondered for a while and then said to them, I can't agree to all of your requests. I can't agree to all of your requests. I can only say that I will try my best to achieve them as long as it doesn't affect my life. If this matter has an impact on my life, I will abandon it. All right. The five of them looked at each other, but they were not angry. Instead, a smile flashed in their eyes. They were very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's answer. If Yi Qinghan listened to their words and agreed without hesitation, they would be worried. How could a man who was irresponsible to himself, his family, and his women be expected to be responsible to the people of the continent? Although Yi Qinghan's answer seemed very selfish, it could be seen from another aspect that he was a responsible person, a man who kept his promises. Now that Yi Qinghan had given an answer from the bottom of his heart, they were relieved. After the matter was finished, the five of them obtained a satisfactory answer. The other four began to bid farewell and leave. Now that the matters that needed to be discussed over the past few days had been settled, they had to go back and make arrangements for their respective families or the House of Aries. The Saber Emperor, the Spear Emperor, and the ancestor of the Shui clan went back, while Yu Shishui went to the Chilling Heart Pavilion to find Yu Qingqing. After the four of them left, Yi Ruoshui once again set up a domain. Her two white eyebrows bent as she smiled bitterly at Yi Qinghan. "Little Han, you don't blame me for giving you so much pressure, do you?" Yi Qinghan let out a bitter laugh and rolled his eyes. "Ancestor, you acted first and reported later. What's the use of me blaming you? Moreover, I didn't agree completely. I only said that I would do my best." AI. A complicated expression flashed across Yi Ruoshui's eyes. She smiled bitterly. "I know that this might be too heavy for you. These things are supposed to be shouldered by us old geezers, but we don't have the ability." The Sword Emperor, who had the highest chance of reaching the peak of the Heavenly God tier, died. Of course, even if he reached the peak of the Heavenly God tier, he wouldn't be able to pass the final trial on Purple Island. After all, divine beasts have natural abilities. Don't give yourself too much pressure. Just do your best. Everything is up to fate. Yi Qinghan fell silent. He thought that they must have found out that Xiaohe was a divine beast, and a very powerful one at that. If he didn't have Xiaohe and this abnormal fusion skill, perhaps he didn't have the qualifications to make them beg him like this. "Let's not talk about this. Tell me about your cultivation level. How did you break through to the Saint tier so quickly? Is it because of Lord Devour?" Yi Ruoshui saw that there were no outsiders and asked the question that had been lingering in their minds for a long time. They obviously thought that Yi Qinghan could break through from the first level of the Emperor tier to the Saint tier in such a short time because of Lord Devour's help. Otherwise, it would be impossible for such a miracle to happen. Yi Ruoshui wanted to confirm it. "Lord Devour?" Yi Qinghan was stunned, but he immediately understood what they were thinking. He pondered for a while and told Yi Ruoshui the whole story. He told them about how he obtained the divine skin in the barbaric mountain and comprehended a profound mystery from it. Then, he refined the pure energy from the divine skin and the energy from Yi Qingyu's jade spirit body to reach the peak of the Emperor tier. Of course, in the end, because he had intercourse with Yu Qingsheng, he suddenly entered the soul silent state and comprehended the profound mystery of Space Wave. He didn't tell them in detail and just vaguely explained it. Moreover, he didn't tell them about how he obtained the Carefree Pavilion and the beach raindrops painting in the Carefree Pavilion. He also didn't tell them about killing Tu Qianjun in the Barbaric Mountain. He subconsciously wanted to keep some things a secret. It wasn't that he didn't trust Yi Ruoshui. Perhaps it was the selfish nature of humans. The sudden increase in Yi Qinghan's strength could be said to have been achieved with the help of many treasures. The Li Xiang Beast's divine skin and Yi Qingyu's jade spirit body allowed him to break through to the peak of the Emperor tier. The beach raindrops painting and the soul silent state allowed him to comprehend the profound mystery of Space Wave. Of course, Yi Qinghan was a little confused. It wasn't that he hadn't entered the soul silent state before. In fact, he had done so many times at the Fallen God Mountain. However, it seemed like he had improved even more this time. He had asked Yu Qingqing about this before, but she only knew a little about it and wasn't very clear. It's definitely the soul silent state. Yi Qinghan wasn't sure, but Yu Shishui was certain of this after investigating Yu Qingqing's situation and listening to her bashful recount of what had happened that day. "Little Qingqing, show me the method power you've comprehended." Yu Shishui suddenly thought of something, and her expression became extremely excited. She had predicted that something amazing would happen when Yu Qingqing and Yi Qinghan intercourse for the first time. However, she hadn't expected that the outcome would be far beyond her expectations. Yu Qingqing had entered the soul silent state, and she had suddenly comprehended a strange, profound mystery. She hadn't just comprehended it, but had completely comprehended it. Her cultivation had reached the peak of the second level of the Emperor tier, and her soul had also become much stronger. If this wasn't the soul silent state that the Moon Queen had mentioned, there was no way to explain it. I'll go get the zither." Yu Qingqing nodded. The two of them were currently on the Chilling Heart Pavilion's rooftop. Yu Qingqing walked into her room, holding a black zither in her hands. She sat down cross-legged on the rooftop and began to play. Clang clang. A melodious and beautiful sound began to ring out from the chilling Heart Pavilion's rooftop, spreading throughout the entire Yi family castle. There was nothing wrong with the sound of the zither. It was just an ordinary lyrical song, high mountains and flowing water. The problem lay in the person who heard it. A pleasantly surprised smile appeared on Yu Shishui's face. Her limpid eyes were filled with a strange light. Yi Qingyu and Yi Qingwu, who were drinking tea in the chilling Heart Pavilion, both had a look of confusion in their eyes. Then, they began to immerse themselves in the melodious sound of the zither. The guards and servants who had just returned to the Yi family castle all stopped what they were doing. A look of confusion flashed across their eyes as they stood there in a daze. After the song ended, Yi Qingwu and Yi Qingyu continued to drink tea. However, Yi Qingyu frowned in confusion. The people of the East Courtyard acted as if nothing had happened, and continued to busy themselves with their own affairs. Good, very good, very good. Yu Shishui said the word good 3 times in a row. Her face was glowing with excitement. Congratulations, little Qingqing. You've actually comprehended the legendary divine sound law technique. This is too inconceivable. You are the second genius to appear on the continent after Yi Qinghan in the last few thousand years. You are the undisputed second genius. Chapter 379. Divine Sound Law. Yu Qingqing stared at Yu Shishui in astonishment. She had been trying to figure out what kind of method power she had comprehended over the past few days. Even when Yi Qinghan asked her, she only told him that she had a slight breakthrough because she wasn't sure. Now that he heard Yu Shishui's explanation, he couldn't help but be stunned. Patriarch, didn't you say that the law of the heavens and earth only consisted of paramount laws and elemental laws? What category did the divine sound law belong to? He's more powerful than supreme laws? Wrong. The divine sound law did not belong to either of the two. I'm not too sure about the specifics, but it's recorded in the grimoire left behind by the Moon Queen before she went to the God Realm. She said that there are actually some rare laws in the world, special laws. Without great opportunities and great comprehension abilities, it's impossible for people to comprehend them. However, once one comprehends them and steps into the divine level, the laws would be freakish. The Moon Queen continued to explain excitedly. When you were playing the Guqin just now, even Yi Qingyu, a sage, fell into a daze. I reckon that this law of yours belongs to the soul category and can confuse the enemy's soul. Little Qingqing walked down the path of the law. Who knows, you might become the second Yi Qinghan. I look forward to your future achievements. So powerful? Yu Qingqing's mood was also slightly excited. Originally, she simply liked to play the zither and had played the zither in the Yu clan for more than 10 years. When Yi Qinghan fell into the god-slaying mountain, she also relied on playing the zither to relieve the depression and loneliness in her heart. Finally, in the deep state of soul silence, she also heard a very wonderful song. He did not expect that he had actually comprehended the divine sound law, which was a soul-type technique. All of this seemed to be the will of the heavens, and everything seemed to have a cycle of karma. Nodding her head, she smiled. Qingqing will definitely continue walking down this path because Qingqing truly loves music. Being able to enjoy music while cultivating at the same time, this is Qingqing's great fortune. Yu Shishui gave Yu Qingqing a gratified smile, then gave her a few more instructions before teleporting back to Tranquil Lake Island. Ancestor, I forgot to ask, how can I become the overlord of the Flame Dragon Plane? After speaking with Yi Ruoshui, Yi Qinghan prepared to return to the chilling Heart Pavilion. However, he suddenly thought of a problem. Since he had agreed to become a deity, he had to figure out what this mission was all about. I'm not too sure myself. I'm afraid I'll have to go to the God Realm to find out. Oh, right. When you have time, you should ask Master Devour. She's such a powerful existence. I'm sure she knows. Yi Ruoshui revealed a trace of embarrassment. They had asked Yi Qinghan to work hard to become the overlord of the Flame Dragon Plane, but in fact, they did not know how to achieve it. After all, none of them had been to the God realm, and none of those who had gone to the God realm had returned. By the way, why did you hide your identity that day? Do you have any difficulties? Yi Ruoshui suddenly thought of a problem and asked with some doubt. This Sai, ancestor, I have been hiding something from you? Yi Qinghan saw that Yi Ruoshui had managed to find the answer. Furthermore, he needed Yi Ruoshui and the rest to help him conceal his strength. Therefore, he could only clench his teeth and say, in the savage mountain range, I killed 2 Qianjun. If I don't conceal my strength, the massacre god guards will definitely sense it. They will suspect that I obtained the divine skin. If they investigate, they will definitely suspect that I killed 2 Qianjun and find trouble with me. I'm not afraid of him now, but I'm afraid that he will ask the divine master to take action. When that time comes, it will be very troublesome. What? You killed 2 Qianjun? The massacre god guards had been secretly investigating 2 Qianjun's death and did not publicize it. Therefore, Yi Ruoshui had not received any news. Now that she heard it, she was shocked. This matter could be big or small. If the divine master butcher did not take action, it would be a small matter. However, if the divine master butcher took action, it would be a disaster for the Yi family. The divine master butcher had the overlord's will. In the continent, besides Lord Devour, no one could match him. If he wanted to deal with the Yi family, unless Lord Devour protected the Yi family would only face destruction. However, would Lord Devour protect the Yi family? Even Yi Qinghan did not like to care about her. How could you expect her to care about the survival of the Yi family? You are too rash. This is troublesome. This matter might cause the Yi family to suffer the fate of being exterminated. Sigh. This? Yi Ruoshui's white brows suddenly rose, and her eyes flickered nonstop. Yi Qinghan was not very clear about the experts and methods of the God City. However, Yi Ruoshui was very clear that the soul slaves were everywhere in the continent. This matter would definitely be exposed. Now that Yi Qinghan's strength had suddenly increased, it would definitely arouse the massacre god guard's suspicions. Furthermore, it seemed like Yi Qinghan and 2 Qianjun had a deep grudge in the past. In that case, they would have a motive to kill. Once the truth was revealed, and Yi Qinghan was still in possession of the godly sword, God Master 2 would definitely kill Yi Qinghan and wipe out the Yi family at the same time. 2 Qianjun wanted to kill me in the barbaric mountains. I had no choice but to kill him and all his subordinates. I can't possibly wait to be killed by him, right? Yi Qinghan did not think too much and did not expect the matter to be so serious. He spread out his hands and said innocently, since it has come to this, there is no other way. I will arrange for people to seal off the news. We will hide it for as long as we can. Everything will depend on the will of the heavens. You will leave immediately. Take Yi Qingyu and the others and leave immediately. Go to the Dark Forest or the Purple Island. Leave overnight. Don't go back to Tsang City until you reach the god level. Yi Ruoshui pondered for a while and suddenly made a decision. What? Is it so serious? Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. He had already thought of the matter as serious as it could be. He did not expect that it would reach the point where he had to leave immediately and go to the Dark Forest or Purple Island to avoid the disaster. He could not accept it for a moment. His expression became serious. This is called being careful, is the parent of safety. Let me ask you a question. Is the real godly sword with you? Yi Ruoshui's expression became cold. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was hesitant to answer, she sighed and said, Don't deny it. I don't want it from you. Think about it. If even I can guess that the godly sword is with you, then many god-level experts on this continent must have guessed it too. You went to the god-slaying mountain for 5 years and finally came out so easily. Moreover, your strength has skyrocketed. Most importantly, you have that strange weapon of yours. It would be strange if people did not suspect you. If it were not for the arrival of the foreign races, I'm afraid that someone would have already made a move on you. Now that the matter of you in Tsang City has been exposed, many people will definitely suspect that you are the black-robed man. Then the fact that you killed 2 Qianjun will definitely surface. After all, you have a direct grudge against him and have a motive to kill him. Since you could obtain the godly skin under the divine beast, then you also have the strength to kill Tu Qianjun. As long as the divine city is sure that you killed Tu Qianjun, then the divine master too will have a reason to openly attack you. He will definitely use the excuse of avenging Tu Qianjun to kill you and take the godly sword. If you continue to stay in the Yi family, there will only be two results. First, you are likely to be slaughtered to death. Second, you are likely to implicate the Yi family and lead to the destruction of the Yi family. Yi Qinghan touched his nose and only came back to his senses after a long while. However, his face turned bitter. Yi Ruoshui's analysis was correct. He had thought things too simply. He began to lament his bitter fate. His strength had just greatly improved, and he had helped the House of Ares kill countless foreign races. It was fine if he could not become famous. Now, it seemed that he couldn't even bring his wives to live a comfortable life. His life was really King lonely like the snow. After pondering for a moment, Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and made a decision. Then let's go to the Purple Island. Going to the dark forest feels like begging. I don't like the days of living under someone else's roof. Chapter 380. All right, you pack up and say goodbye to Sky Dragon. Tell me when you are ready. I will take you there immediately. Yi Ruoshui actually hoped that Yi Qinghan would go to the Dark Castle. After all, Lord Devour would take care of him because of his relationship with Xiaohe. However, the Purple Island was the safest place. Now that Yi Qinghan had made up his mind, she couldn't say anything else. Don't. Since he had made up his mind, Yi Qinghan didn't feel so conflicted. His face revealed a trace of ruthlessness as he waved his hand and said, "You can't take me there. Not only can you not take me there, but you have to wait until I reach Zidao. You have to ask the family to put up a notice to expel me from the Yi family forever. You have to tell the world that I have nothing to do with the Yi family anymore. The Yi family won't be responsible for my behavior." All right, how are you going to get there? The Purple Island is in the east of the Hidden Island. It was Yi Qinghan who had asked the Yi family to expel him. Yi Ruoshe was also an ambitious person. She was a little surprised, but she didn't hesitate much. Since Yi Qinghan had asked, it didn't matter anymore. As long as the Yi family recognized Yi Qinghan, it was fine. They could just let him return to the family in the future. I have my own way. You don't have to worry about my safety. Did you forget how I disappeared a few days ago? Yi Qinghan laughed but didn't point it out. After all, old Lu didn't want too many people to know about his existence. As for his safety, he wasn't really worried. As long as he controlled the Freedom Ring and opened the door to enter the Freedom Pavilion, he would enter an independent space. Once he entered, the door would disappear. Why would he be afraid of the Divine Lord? This time, he went to the Purple Island because he was afraid that Yi Qingyu and the other two would be bored staying in the Freedom Pavilion. Otherwise, he wouldn't even want to go to the Purple Island. He would just cultivate in the Freedom Pavilion. Patriarch, please take me to the Chilling Heart Pavilion. In the future, you must take care of yourself. Finally, Yi Qinghan dropped to his knees and kowtowed 3 times in front of Yi Ruoshui. Well, don't worry too much. Maybe things won't be so pessimistic. Moreover, I can often take people to the Z Island to see you. Yi Ruoshui looked at Yi Qinghan with guilt. She held him up with her hands, and her eyes were slightly moist. This child was only 21 years old, yet he had already experienced so many hardships. Now, he had to face even greater challenges, as well as his thin and weak shoulders, yet he still had to shoulder such a heavy burden. Although it was said that capable people should do more work, if possible, he would rather bear all the hardships and burdens himself. Between men, there were some things that didn't need to be said. Yi Ruoshui and Yi Qinghan looked at each other. They nodded and smiled at the same time. Then, Yi Ruoshui teleported to the Cold Heart Pavilion with Yi Qinghan. After bidding farewell to Yi Ruoshui, Yi Qinghan walked into the hall of the Cold Heart Pavilion. He looked around with nostalgia. Yi Qinghan teleported to the backyard. Yi Qingyu and the others were drinking tea and enjoying the afternoon sunshine. "Brother, Yi Qingyu was the first to notice Yi Qinghan's appearance. She stood up and shouted happily. Yu Qingqing and Yi Qingwu also put down their cups and stood up with a smile. "Hello, three beauties. Can I ask you a question?" Yi Qinghan smiled mischievously. He extended his hand and said to the three beauties in a serious manner, "Three beauties, are you willing to accompany me to travel the world?" Travel the world? The three looked at Yi Qinghan's serious expression. They didn't understand what was going on. They looked at him in confusion and waited for his explanation. "I will explain the specific reason later. Right now, I can only tell you clearly. I'm all alone now. I can no longer stay in this Yi family. I'm going to travel the world. May I ask if you are willing to come with me? You have to think about it carefully. Maybe you won't be able to return for 8 to 10 years. Or maybe you won't be able to return for the rest of your life." Yi Qinghan looked at the three of them with guilt. He was lucky enough to marry three beauties. Yet he couldn't give them a stable life. Now he had to wander from place to place. He was a failure as a man. "I will go wherever you go, brother," Yi Qingyu said without hesitation. To her, wherever Yi Qinghan was, that was her home. Traveling the world is not bad. "I am willing to go to the ends of the earth with you. The 4 seas are my home." Yu Qingqing smiled sweetly. The days without Yi Qinghan by her side were too difficult. She didn't want to continue playing the zither alone by the tranquil lake. "I will go with you too. But can I really not come back?" Yi Qingwu's voice was resolute, but her face was a little bitter. Anyway, if she couldn't come back in this lifetime, she couldn't show her filial piety to her grandfather. What if her grandfather didn't come back after he passed away? She would hate herself for the rest of her life. "Good. That's my Yi Qinghan's woman. Actually, I found that I don't have anything in this world except for you and Xiaohe. But it's enough." Yi Qinghan beamed a faint smile. It was a bright and contented smile. His eyes shot out a beam of light. His heroic spirit burst out as he said word by word, "Don't worry. I will try my best to bring you back to the Fire Dragon continent as soon as possible. At the same time, I will try my best to make you happy for the rest of your lives." Then, Yi Qinghan touched the carefree ring, and 2 jade boxes appeared in his hand. He gave them to Yu Qingqing and Yi Qingwu, smiling. "This is Lord Devour's wedding gift for you. These are 2 peak Heavenly God Realm divine crystals. You should refine them. After that, the 3 of you will reach the peak Heavenly God Realm." Divine crystals? The 2 of them were startled and nearly lost their grip on the jade box, causing it to drop. They knew about this because Yi Qingyu had been refining the divine crystal. At this moment, her cultivation level was even higher than Yi Qinghan's, and it was said that in a few years, she would become a deity. This item was priceless. Haha. Yi Qingwu can become a God Realm expert one day, and a peak Heavenly God Realm expert at that. Yi Qingwu couldn't bear to part with the jade boxes. In fact, she was a little jealous of Yi Qingyu. The reason why she worked so hard was that she didn't want to fall behind Yi Qingyu's strength. She didn't want to be neglected by Yi Qinghan. It was a kind of sour grapes subconsciously. After refining the divine crystals, can I continue to comprehend the original principles? Yu Qingqing didn't show much joy. Instead, she asked a strange question. This, Yi Qinghan blinked his eyes in confusion. Seeing Yu Qingqing asking seriously, he sent a voice transmission to old Lu. After a while, he shrugged his shoulders and said, "No, you can't. After refining the divine crystal, you can only comprehend the mysteries of the divine crystal. You can't cultivate the original nomological laws." "Oh, in that case, I don't want this divine crystal anymore. You can give it to someone else?" Yu Qingqing's eyes flashed with a hint of disappointment. Then, she smiled and felt relieved. She casually threw the divine crystal to Yi Qinghan as if she was throwing a toy. "Why?" Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu exchanged looks. They blinked in disbelief and asked at the same time. Yi Qinghan touched Yu Qingqing's forehead to see if she had caught a cold. What was this? It was a divine crystal that could help her enter the God realm easily. Yu Qingqing hesitated for a while before rejecting it. If Yi Qinghan hadn't promised Lord Devour not to refine the divine crystal to become a god, he would have refined it himself. There's no reason. I like the heaven and earth principles I cultivate. I don't want to change them. Qinghan, I know what I want. Don't worry about me. Yu Qingqing nodded resolutely. The divine sound law principle she cultivated was her hobby. She didn't want to give up her hobby. It was that simple. All right, since you're so sure, I'll give this divine crystal to my grandfather so that the Yi clan can have one more guardian deity. Yi Qinghan didn't insist. He took the divine crystal back and prepared to give it to Yi Tianlong. The Yi family would have one more God Realm guardian. It would be a reward for the Yi family for raising him for so many years. After making his decision, he suddenly felt relaxed. Looking around, he finally raised his hands high and revealed a brilliant smile. He said to the three of them, Xiao Yu and Qingqing, go pack up your things. Xiao Wu and I will go say goodbye to my grandfathers. After that, let's go roam the world with everyone. Chapter 381. In the mountains behind the Yi family, Yi Tianlong and the other two were sitting in a circle in the attic, drinking tea and chatting. Although all three of them were injured, they were clearly in good spirits. Clan leader, you have to work hard on your cultivation and strive to become a god as soon as possible. Get that little girl from the Yu family to join the Yi family. When the time comes, all 3 generations of the Yu family sanuses will fall under your spears. Yi Qingyo drank a mouthful of tea, his slightly puffed-up eyes looking docile and wretched. He looked askance at Yi Tianlong and chuckled. Qingyo, you're already an old man. Why can't you be more serious? Your granddaughter is already married, and when the time comes, you'll be carrying great-grandchildren, but you're still like this. Yi Tianlong glared angrily at Yi Qingyo, but when he saw his docile expression, he couldn't help but laugh helplessly. Then he let out a long sigh. Become a god? That's easier said than done. It's not like you don't know that cultivation is at its peak before the age of 50. After that, all aspects begin to decline. I am powerless even though I want to... That's right. Yi Baihu also sighed faintly. The 3 of us broke through to the Saint Realm 20 years ago, but now we're still at the 2nd tier. This road to godhood is too difficult. Seeing little Han and little Yu's strength soar and almost catch up to us, I feel my old face heating up. What else can we do? On this road of cultivation, the younger one is and the higher one's tier is, the higher the chance of becoming a god. But has there ever been a person on the continent who could reach little Han's tier at such a young age? When our ancestor broke through to the Saint Realm, he was in his 30s, right? I say, don't think too much about it. This kind of opportunity can only be encountered by chance. In any case, I've already accepted it. I played what I wanted to play and enjoyed what I wanted to enjoy, so I have no regrets. Whether or not we can take this last step depends on the will of the heavens. At least we've tried our best, so we won't have any regrets before we enter the grave, right? Yi Qingyo had a carefree personality, and he spoke without any scruples. He was very open-minded about some things. Well said. Who cares about him? What's fated can't run away, and what's not fated can't be forced. I still have a few decades of lifespan left, so let's fight one last time. A bitter smile appeared on Yi Tianlong's rigid and resolute face. Yi Qingyo had no regrets, but he did. It was just that he had never been good at expressing it. Yu Shishui had always been a wound in his heart that could never be healed. Xiao. Right at this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded from afar. The 3 of them stopped talking at the same time and stood up with smiles on their faces as they walked towards the door. Yi Qinghan greets the 3 grandfathers. It was Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu. Yi Qinghan brought her all the way here and landed in front of the attic. Yi Qinghan smiled and bowed. Greetings to the 3 grandfathers. Grandpa, why are you so hurt? Is it serious? Yi Qingwu was just about to bow when she saw that Yi Qingyo's entire body was wrapped in white cloth. Her pretty face immediately paled in fright, and she hurriedly threw herself at Yi Qingyo, inspecting him from head to toe in worry. Girl, what are you making a fuss about? You're already married, so why are you still so unsteady? As a cultivator, getting injured is a common occurrence. What's so strange about that? Who is your grandfather? He's a saint expert, so he'll be fine after a few days of rest. Yi Qingniu's eyes bulged as he pretended to reprimand her, but there was a benevolent look in his eyes. He obviously didn't want to lose face in front of Yi Tianlong, Yi Baihu, and Yi Qinghan. Grandpa Qingniu, these are 10 bottles of peerless healing medicine. Apply them on your injuries, and they'll be fine in a day. Yi Qinghan was already prepared, and he asked for 10 bottles of healing medicine from the immortal realm from Elder Lu and handed them over. He knew that if Yi Qingwu saw Yi Qingniu's injuries, she would probably be extremely worried, and she would probably make a fuss about staying for a few more days. Grandpa, quickly go in. I'll apply for you. Yi Qingwu took the bottles. Thinking about how she was about to leave, tears welled up in her eyes, and she supported Yi Qingniu as they walked in. After busying herself, the healing medicine was indeed miraculous. Once it was applied, the wounds healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Under Yi Qinghan's insistence, Yi Tianlong and Yi Baihu helplessly applied the medicine as well. Finally, the 3 elders returned to the main hall. Yi Qinghan asked Yi Qingwu to accompany the 3 of them, and he didn't explain much. Instead, he directly teleported to the Cold Heart Pavilion and brought Yu Qingsheng and Yi Qingyu with him. Bang! At Yi Qinghan's signal, the 4 of them knelt in front of the 3 elders and performed the most solemn ceremony of 3 kowtows and 9 kowtows in the entire continent. The 3 elders were baffled, and Yi Qingwu was a complete mess of tears. Yi Qingniu was so anxious that he almost went berserk. Grandpas, Qing'an will take them far away from Tsang City in a while. After this trip, I don't know when I'll be able to return to fulfill my filial duties to the 3 of you. Don't be in a hurry to ask. Wait for me to finish speaking. This is something that the old ancestor and I have decided on together. As for the reason, the old ancestor will tell you. After we part today, I don't know when we will meet again. I hope the 3 grandpas will take good care of yourselves. Of course, if the 3 grandpas have the time, you can come to Purple Island to see me. I will also do my best to return to Tsang City as soon as possible. The corners of Yi Qinghan's eyes were also brimming with tears. Although he had rarely seen the 3 elders in the first 15 years of his life, they had always treated him very well after he left the Infatuation Garden, especially before he was trapped in the God-slaying mountain. Yi Qingniu and Yi Tianlong's angry roar made him feel their sincere love for him. Of course, this might have something to do with the sudden increase in his strength, but at least from that moment on, he began to accept these 3 people. This is a peak heavenly god divine crystal. You can choose one person to refine it. This is my gift to you before you leave. After saying this, Yi Qinghan took out a green jade box and handed it to Yi Tianlong. Then, together with the 3 of them, he kowtowed heavily. In the end, he took the muddle-headed Yi Qingwu with him, forcefully suppressing the grief in his heart, and resolutely turned around and left. Yi Qinghan knew that he had to cut the Gordian knot, or else he might not be able to leave for a few days. This, Patriarch, what's going on? Yi Qingniu wanted to chase after them, but he was stopped by Yi Tianlong. His eyes bulged and he stamped the ground heavily, his face full of irritation as he roared. What's the hurry, Qingniu? Didn't you hear little Hans say that we can go to Purple Island to see them in the future? I've already sent a message to the old ancestor. Let's wait for him to come before we ask him. Hey, what happened? It's so serious that we have to go to Purple Island to seek refuge? Yi Tianlong glared at Yi Qingniu, as if blaming him for not being able to distinguish the severity of the situation. Yi Baihu was still shocked by the peak heavenly god divine crystal that Yi Qinghan had given to the Yi family. The 2 of them were roused by Yi Tianlong's words. Yi Qinghan's strength had just improved greatly, and he had resolved a great crisis for the House of Aries. Now, he had to leave in a hurry. Moreover, the 3 of them simultaneously thought of Yi Qinghan's strange appearance and deliberately altered voice when he was killing the outsiders. Could it be that he had encountered some great trouble, that even the Yi family couldn't protect him? Because he killed 2 Qianjun, so he must leave. Otherwise, the Yi family will be finished. At this moment, Yi Ruoxue suddenly teleported over. She let out a deep sigh and said somewhat helplessly, "Pass down my order. Seal up the outside of Tiansong City. Anyone who talks about this matter will be expelled from the Yi family. Those who are serious will be killed on the spot." A moment later, a luxurious carriage without any insignia quietly left from the east gate of Tiansong City, leaving behind a trail of dust. Chapter 382. Recently, something strange had happened in the House of Aries. It was so strange that people were a little scared. All the experts who had participated in the great battle in Song City a few days ago and survived the calamity received the highest level order from the Divine Battle Abode. It meant that they were forbidden to talk about the giant face and the black cloak man who had spread the news of that battle. Moreover, it was even more serious this time. The House of Aries had directly issued a war god blood order, saying that this matter was related to the survival of the House of Aries. Anyone who talked about it would be killed without mercy. Last time in Song City, perhaps all the experts were suspicious. But this time they were obviously frightened. This matter was obviously very serious. It was so serious that it was related to the survival of the House of Aries. Who dared to talk about it? Many people had secretly talked about it with others. They hurried to clean up their messes. Others wanted to bury this matter in their stomachs. Obviously, Yi Ruoxue's 2 muting spells had played a big role. Although all the God Realm experts on the continent had used their soul consciousness to check occasionally during that battle, they were afraid of enraging Jin Shi. However, because he was afraid of angering Jin Shi, he didn't dare to spread his divine sense to the center of the battlefield. Later, after the giant face appeared, he didn't even dare to investigate from afar. Only after the battle was over, when the giant face and the alien tribes had disappeared, did they dare to spread their soul consciousness. But they found that the alien tribes had all disappeared. However, at that moment, it was obvious that they all thought that Lord Devour had killed or driven away the alien tribes. That was how this world-ending crisis had ended. While the barbarian god mansion's hidden island was secretly happy, they began to inquire about what had happened. While the demon god mansion's divine city was cursing, they also began to inquire about what had happened that day. Yi Ruoxue's first message was effective. That night, many soul consciousness had locked on the Emperor Realm warriors on the Song City Square. But no one talked about it afterward. They only heard that a black-cloaked expert had saved the House of Aries. This half-understanding made them even more curious. Hence, the spies of the House of Aries, who had been bribed in 2 prefectures, 1 city, and 1 island, began to investigate everywhere. They wanted to get to the bottom of what had happened that day. Otherwise, they would feel uncomfortable if they were hung up on one thing. However, under the second gag order from the House of Aries, they did not manage to obtain any concrete information. This was even more incredible. The various powers hadn't paid much attention to it at first, but now that the House of Aries had issued a few gag orders, they understood this matter so well that not a single hint of it leaked out. No one would believe that there was no secret hidden in this. Therefore, the entire House of Aries appeared calm on the surface, but under the surface, a turbulent undercurrent was surging. Although the gag order had been issued twice, it was obvious that there were still people who dared to go against the rules of the House of Aries and whisper to each other. For example, Yi Jian had the guts to do so. Yi Jian had always been a snobbish person. When he was young, his talent was average, and he was suppressed by Yi Dao for decades. However, he had always endured. That time, Yi Dao stubbornly went to the god-slaying mountain. He thought it was an opportunity, so he made a decisive move. In the end, he won, and Yi Dao died. Under his careful management, the first branch controlled the Yi family and the south of the House of Aries. However, 6 years ago, Yi Dao's son suddenly became extremely powerful. During the battle in the Garden of Enchantment, Yi Tianlong was lured out. In the end, Yi Qingquang was crippled, and he was imprisoned. The second branch once again suppressed the first branch. He did not give up and continued to endure. In the back mountain, because there were no mundane matters to deal with, he had plenty of time. Coupled with his stubborn personality, he was lucky enough to break through to the Saint Realm and return. However, he thought he could revive the first branch, regain power, and restore his former glory and dignity. However, he realized that the sky in Song City seemed to have changed. Yi Qinghan became the young clan head, and his position was firmly above him. Furthermore, the family did not confer him the position of heavenly elder, and he did not even have the position of an elder with actual power. Furthermore, his son did not have a soul seed planted in him. All right, continue to endure. That day, when that black-robed man appeared and instantly killed a group of peak sages, and he confirmed the identity of that black-robed man from Yichang. He knew that he could not endure anymore. He decided to make a move. Are you sure that Tu Qinjun died in the barbaric mountains? In the study, Yi Jin carefully released his sage domain. At the same time, he carefully communicated with Yi Qingquang via voice transmission. Through the information he had gathered over the past few days, he felt that he was about to touch the core of this secret. Father, this is the biggest matter before the divine city's foreign races descended. Furthermore, the god-slaying guards even gave a condition. Whoever finds the murderer must immediately remove the soul seed in his body. How can I remember such a big matter wrongly? Yi Qingquang had just returned to the Yi family castle when he was summoned by Yi Jian. He thought that something big had happened. Unexpectedly, Yi Jian asked about something that he had reported to Yi Jian previously. After hearing Yi Qingquang's confirmation, Yi Jian was silent for a long time. His expression kept changing, and it was obvious that he was struggling internally. After combining all the information, he had a general understanding of the matter. He started to hesitate and paced back and forth. Just like how he had decided to sell Yi Dao's information to the demon race more than 10 years ago. This was a gamble, but the risks and benefits were equal. You guys are pushing me too far. Don't blame me. Anyway, this matter will be exposed sooner or later. After being silent for an hour, Yi Jian finally revealed a ruthless expression and muttered to himself. Then he turned his head and transmitted a voice transmission to Yi Qingquang, who was at a loss. I will arrange for you to leave Song City in a few days. After that, you will make a secret trip to the Divine City. Why would I go to the Divine City? Yi Qingquang was shocked. He couldn't avoid that place and time, so how would he dare to go alone? After all, a soul slave might be killed if he went to the Divine City without permission. Fool, you go see the god-slaying guards and tell them about Tu Qinjuan's murderer. Ask them to remove the soul seed for you. Then help me pass on a few words. Say. Yi Jian stood up and started to transmit a voice transmission to Yi Qingquang in detail. After listening, Yi Qingquang was instantly filled with excitement. His father's plan was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. However, after a while, he suddenly thought of something and asked doubtfully, Lord Father, this plan is good, but I'm afraid that when the time comes, it will implicate the Yi family. If the Yi family is destroyed, we won't be able to escape death as well. Fool, how long do you think you can hide this matter? Anyway, you will find out in the end. I might as well let you remove the soul seed. Yi Jian was very dissatisfied with his son's intelligence and scolded him. With a gloomy expression, he continued, In a few days, when you are about to reach the Divine City, I will meet the elder ancestor and tell him the truth. I will banish Yi Qinghan from the Yi family. Otherwise, the Yi family will be destroyed in his hands. Yes, Lord Father is still smart. In a few days, I will secretly go to the Divine City. Yi Qinghan, you're dead this time. Ha! Yi Qingquang suddenly wanted to laugh out loud. However, when he opened his mouth, he felt that it was not the right time to laugh. Looking at Yi Jian's cold gaze, he hurriedly touched his nose in embarrassment and prepared to leave. Remember, keep it a secret. After you deliver the letter, don't come back for a while. After a period of time, I will send your 2 younger brothers away. If the Yi family is really destroyed because of Yi Qinghan, at least there will be some seeds left. Yi Jian waved his hand and let Yi Qingquang leave. However, he stared blankly out of the window. More than 10 years ago, he had made a bet and he won in the end. This time, he didn't know what the final outcome would be. Perhaps he would live, perhaps he would die. Perhaps he would be rich and powerful. Perhaps his soul would be sent to the Western paradise. He didn't care anymore because he thought that he couldn't endure this kind of life anymore. Chapter 383. A few days later, a special carriage arrived at Black Tortoise City, a large city to the east of the House of Aries. Black Tortoise City was one of the 100 major cities of the House of Aries. It was one of the affiliated cities of the Hua family and was not far from Luo Hua City. The city was jointly managed by 3 famous families of the House of Aries. As the House of Aries had not been very peaceful recently, the city gates were filled with guards who were there to inspect the city. Stop the carriage and inspect. Sima Xingjie was a disciple of the Sima family, one of the 3 major families of Black Tortoise City. Today, it was his turn to guard the city gates. Suddenly, he noticed that a carriage was heading straight into the city, with no intention of stopping. Furthermore, he noticed that the carriage was unusually luxurious, but there was no sign of a major family on it. Sima Xingjie smirked and realized that this was his chance to make a fortune. He hurriedly stood up and led his men to surround the carriage. "My lords, I am from the Big Bird Carriage Company. The young master in the carriage is our boss's esteemed guest. Please do not inspect him." The coachman was an old man. He seemed to be a frequent traveler and knew the rules. He extended his hand and handed over a small bag of crystal coins. He said with a smile, "My apologies, the rules have been a little strict recently, so I have to inspect him." Sima Xingjie glanced at the small bag of crystal coins, and his expression became even more serious. However, his hands did not move an inch. The invasion of the mutated tribes had caused them a lot of trouble for a long time. It was not easy for them to meet such a troublemaker, and they wanted to dismiss him with just this. Whoosh! The old coachman wanted to say something else, but just as Sima Xingjie was about to pretend to open the curtains to inspect the carriage, a purple, unknown object suddenly flew out from the carriage and headed straight for Sima Xingjie's head. Sima Xingjie was shocked. Fortunately, the speed of the hidden weapon was not fast. He stomped his feet on the ground and quickly retreated. At the same time, he clenched his fist and quickly grabbed at the purple hidden weapon. Finally, just as the hidden weapon was about to reach his head, he successfully clamped it between his 2 fingers. "Beautiful! Good! Lord Jie, you have actually cultivated the chasing stars and moon technique to such a superb level? Impressive, impressive!" Sima's business showed off a little, and the team members beside him all cheered and flattered him. Sima Xingjie raised his head slightly proudly, as if he was very satisfied with his reaction just now. Originally, he wanted to throw away the hidden weapon in his hand, but he saw the familiar purple color on his finger and the familiar pattern engraved on it. After rolling his eyes a few times, his expression suddenly changed. He furiously waved his sleeve and put the purple crystal coin in his hand into his sleeve without leaving a trace. He then looked coldly at the carriage and said, "Sir, what is the meaning of this?" "Xiao." Another purple concealed weapon shot straight towards Sima Xingjie's head. Seeing this, Sima Xingjie's eyes flashed. Instead of retreating, he moved forward and grabbed the hidden weapon with one hand, then put it back into his sleeve. His expression became even more furious as he shouted coldly, "Your hidden weapon skills don't seem to be very good. Today, if you can defeat me with hidden weapons, I'll make an exception and let you enter the city." Swish, swish, swish. The people in the carriage didn't hold back and actually shot out countless purple hidden weapons, aiming for the vital parts of Sima Xingjie's body. Sima Xingjie's eyes suddenly widened, and his battle aura surged. This time, he used both his hands at the same time, continuously flashing in the air and grabbing the purple hidden weapons one by one. He even bit one hidden weapon with his mouth. In the end, because there were too many hidden weapons, he was hit in the chest by one hidden weapon. He staggered a few steps and fell on his butt. "You win. Move aside. Let them enter the city." Sima Xingjie didn't care about his pathetic appearance on the ground. He quickly put the purple hidden weapon in his chest into his sleeve, then shouted at the carriage with a face full of grief and indignation. At the same time, he waved his hand to signal his subordinates to move aside. Young master, this person is too boring. I still want to continue smashing him." The carriage sped towards the city gate, leaving behind a silvery young woman's voice. "Sir Jia, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere? Sir, why did you let them enter the city? You should have sent a signal to the clan to capture them." The moment the carriage entered the city, the group of guards hurriedly came over to support Sima Xingjie, their faces full of concern and anger. What do you know?" Sima Xingjie immediately stood up. He looked at the back of the carriage at the city gate and revealed a sinister smile. Then, he reached into his sleeve with his left hand. Under the puzzled gaze of the crowd, he opened his palm, revealing a dazzling purple light. It was more than 10 purple crystal coins. The dozen or so guards surrounding Sima Xingjie suddenly became dumbfounded when they saw the dazzling purple light. This was more than 1,000 crystal coins. It was enough to spend in the best brothel in Xianwu City for a year. Who was inside the carriage? They actually used purple crystal coins to smash people? Even the #1 young master of the east of the House of Aries would not dare to do such a thing. And it seemed that the woman just said that she hadn't smashed enough. The carriage traveled on a flat street. A young master was lazily reclining on a soft chair in the carriage. Sitting next to him was an extremely beautiful woman. She had a pair of beautiful little hands, and she was pushing a fruit apart before splitting it into a small portion and sending it to the young man's mouth. "How is it, little peach blossom? How did you feel when you smashed people with purple crystal coins? Was it very satisfying?" The young master opened his mouth and bit the fruit. At the same time, he quickly kissed the beautiful woman's beautiful little hand and said with a smile, "If it's not fun at all, I thought he would be able to last a few more times. I didn't expect him to be so fast. I haven't gotten addicted yet. This person's character is not that good." The woman called Little Peach Blossom rolled her eyes. Her eyes were like silk as she smiled coquettishly. "Ah, you are a lady from a prestigious family. You don't know how expensive rice is. Thinking back to when I was in Barbarian City, I went into the mountains to hunt magical beasts for a few dozen crystal coins. I almost died a few times. You have already spent more than 1,000 crystal coins, and he still doesn't stop. In the end, you won't even have a single crystal coin left. Bad character? There are too few people with good character in this world. They often seem to be very loyal, but in fact, they feel that their betrayal is not enough." The young master looked at the woman who was acting coquettishly and laughed. He pulled the woman to sit in his arms and started to grope her wantonly. That's right. These were Yi Qinghan and Yu Qingsheng, who had left Song City for the Purple Island. After Yi Qinghan left the mountain behind the Yi family castle, he directly hired a luxurious carriage in Song City and rushed to the east. Because of the existence of the Carefree Ring, Yi Qinghan didn't ask Elder Lu to teleport them to the Purple Island directly. After all, Elder Lu's appearance and teleportation would be exposed. If he asked Elder Lu for help, it would be a request. He still had 2 chances to attack, and he didn't want to waste them. Moreover, he had the Carefree Ring. He could ask Elder Lu to release a wisp of divine sense outside. As long as a god-level expert was investigating, he would know immediately. At that time, he could directly open the door to the Carefree Pavilion and enter. The Carefree Pavilion was an independent parallel space refined by the Soul Emperor. As long as someone entered, the Void Door would disappear. Inside the Carefree Pavilion, even Lord Devour wouldn't be able to break the void to hurt him. Therefore, Yi Qinghan decided to travel to the Purple Island slowly. After all, he didn't know when he would return. "Young master, we have arrived at the Black Warrior City's commercial street." After a while, the carriage stopped abruptly. The old coachman called out in a soft voice. Yi Qinghan released Yu Qingsheng unwillingly. He stretched his body and said with a smile, All right, I will bring Little Lotus and Little Rose out. Everyone, let's go for a stroll. We will buy half of the things in Black Warrior City, then we will go to the Purple Island and rebuild the Cold Heart Pavilion. This brother is not short of money. Chapter 384. Yi Qingwu used the sadness of parting as motivation. After leaving Song City, she calmed herself down for half a day before entering the chilling heart pavilion to ask Elder Lu to help her refine the divine crystal. Yi Qingyu also wanted to quickly comprehend the mysteries of the divine crystal so that she could become a god and help Yi Qinghan. Thus, she left Yi Qinghan and Yu Qingqing behind to cultivate in the chilling heart pavilion. Yi Qinghan flashed into the chilling heart pavilion and brought the two of them out after a short while. "What's wrong, little Han?" "Young master, I have only refined the divine crystal for a few days. I have just stabilized the energy in my body and sorted out the knowledge in my mind. Why did you call us out?" Yi Qingwu was still immersed in the shock of the divine crystal. However, she was pulled out by Yi Qinghan. She pouted her lips in dissatisfaction and stretched her body in the carriage. When she looked at Yi Qinghan, her heart skipped a beat. Yi Qingyu didn't say anything when she came out. Instead, she smiled and walked over to Yu Qingqing. She held Yu Qingqing's hand and listened to their conversation. "Little Rose, we are about to leave this place and go to the isolated island. Aren't you going to buy more clothes, utensils, and tools? Let me tell you, there isn't a single person in that place. Moreover, we will be staying there for at least 10 years. When we have no clothes to wear, are you going to run around naked?" Yi Qinghan couldn't help but reach out and pinch Yi Qingwu's breasts. At the same time, he smiled mischievously as he hugged Yi Qingwu's voluptuous body. You little scoundrel, you little pervert. If you don't stop, I'm going to scream." Yi Qingwu's breasts were suddenly attacked by Yi Qinghan in front of Yi Qingyu and Yu Qingqing. She was greatly shocked and embarrassed. She immediately slapped away that pair of big hands unceasingly. Only after he let go did she jump away from Yu Qingqing's and Yi Qingyu's hands. She walked out of the carriage and said fiercely, "Little lotus flower, little peach blossom, let's go and spend all of this little rascal's money and make him a pauper. I want to buy 10 horse carriages worth of clothes." "Wait, put on the veil first." Yi Qinghan chuckled and didn't think much of it. He handed over 3 veils from the carriage. At the same time, he picked up a bamboo hat and put it on, covering half of his face. After leaving Song City, Yi Qinghan decided to have some fun before going to Purple Island. Therefore, he wanted to keep a low profile. He changed the names of the 3 girls and asked them to call him Young Master. This was to avoid being recognized. Firstly, he was afraid of exposing his whereabouts and attracting the attention of the Divine City. Secondly, he was too famous now. It would not be fun if he was exposed. "Young Master, miss." The 4 of them got off the carriage. When the coachman next to the carriage saw the 4 of them coming out, he quickly bowed slightly. This big bird carriage company was actually the secret intelligence system of the Yi family. Now it was led by Yi Shi-san. He was one of them, so Yi Qinghan was very relieved. "Well, we're going to buy some things. You go to the largest hotel in Xuanwu City, Tsuewei Pavilion, book a few rooms and park the carriage there. After that, you take this and go to Luohua City to look for flowers and plants. Tell him to meet me at the hotel tonight." Yi Qinghan took out a black dagger from the Xiaoyao ring and handed it to the coachman. This was Yi Qinghan's personal weapon in the mansion battle. Flowers and plants used to be very envious, so they would definitely recognize it at a glance. Since he decided to go to Purple Island, he needed to cross the sea and go to Hidden Island first. Then he would go to Purple Island. However, Yi Qinghan had never been to the sea and was not familiar with the things in the sea. Naturally, he thought of the first young master flowers and plants in the east of the House of Aries. As the future clan leader of the Hua family, it would be easy for flowers and plants to arrange some boats and manpower for him. Therefore, Yi Qinghan prepared to spend the night in Xuanwu City, which was next to Luohua City. The coachman took the dagger and drove the carriage away. Yi Qinghan brought the 3 girls to the largest commercial street in Xuanwu City, East Cloud Street. This street was the most famous main street in Xuanwu City. There were countless shops of different sizes. Basically, all kinds of food, clothing, and other miscellaneous things could be bought here. Yi Qinghan was dressed in green. Although his body looked weak, he faintly revealed a trace of elegant temperament. And the 3 girls standing on the street were like cranes in a flock of chickens, dazzling. Yu Qingqing was dressed in a peach-colored palace dress. Just by standing there quietly, she gave people the feeling that she was a fairy who had fallen to the mortal world, ethereal and ethereal. Yi Qingwu was dressed in a fiery red dress. After a few protests from Yi Qinghan, she did not wear revealing clothes like before. However, her fiery hot body and the two huge lumps in front of her chest could not be hidden no matter what. Yi Qingyu was dressed in white. Her soft and weak body gave off a delicate aura with every movement she made, causing others to feel pity for her. The three girls were just like the nicknames that Yi Qinghan had given them. One was as intoxicating as a peach blossom, one was as flirtatious as a rose, and one was as pure as a lotus. Although the three girls were covered with veils and their faces could not be seen, just looking at their bodies and temperament was enough to make people ecstatic. It was currently noon on East Cloud Street. People were coming and going, and the traffic was endless. It was very lively. However, when Yi Qinghan and the other three walked into the street, they immediately became the focus of the street. The three beautiful girls with different styles obviously shocked the passersby on the street. It should be known that it was rare to see such fairy-like figures. But now, three of them suddenly appeared. Most importantly, the center of the three girls was obviously the man wearing the bamboo hat. For a moment, all kinds of soft swallowing sounds, exclamations, discussions, and curses could be heard. All kinds of envious, intoxicated, greedy, and jealous gazes drifted over the four of them. In the end, the men's gazes stopped on Yi Qinghan, who was dressed in green, and they began to guess his identity. What kind of young master from a great family could have such amazing luck with women? And the girls on the street also stopped their gazes on Yi Qinghan, as if they wanted to see Yi Qinghan's face clearly. What kind of man could make three girls fall in love with him? Just as the passersby on the street were guessing the identities of the four of them turned into the first jewelry shop, then walked out after a while, and went into the second clothing shop. And the owner of the first shop suddenly walked out, his face full of excitement. At the same time, he quickly called for a carriage and began to move things out of the shop. They actually moved all the things out of the shop, an entire carriage. Then, the four of them walked out of the second shop and continued on to the next one. Similarly, in the second shop, they rushed to the door with faces full of excitement and began to loudly order the shop's employees to load all the clothes in the shop into a large carriage. When the four of them walked into the third shop, they casually glanced around, then threw a bag of purple crystal coins, and the shop owner began to load the goods excitedly. Only then did the countless people on the street come to their senses and understand what had happened. They all looked at the four of them in horror as they continued on to the next shop. The street was silent. Looking at the increasing number of carriages filled with goods following the four of them, their eyes became more and more astonished. What was going on? Were the four of them crazy? Or were the purple crystal coins of the mainland going to be useless soon? It was not as if they had never seen a shopping spree before. A few days ago, the number one young master of Black Tortoise City, Sima Zhuaming, bought a large number of precious items on this East Cloud Street in order to win the favor of a lady. But young Master Sima paled in comparison to the four of them. What he did was called buying, but this was called clearing stock. He packed everything up and took it away. Without asking for the price, he just looked at the goods and threw a bag of purple crystal coins over. Although they did not know how much the goods in the shop were worth, seeing how the shop owner was grinning so widely that his teeth were about to fall off, they knew that he must have made a killing. Lunatic, lunatic! Prodigal, prodigal! Countless people began to curse in their hearts in shock. They hated this young master's crazy behavior to the core. He actually treated money like it was money. Wasn't this a clear slap to the faces of those who did not have money? At the same time, they secretly despised him. This person was even crazier than the young master of Black Tortoise City. In order to win the favor of a lady, he actually wanted to buy an entire street. How many purple crystal coins did he have to spend? What a complete prodigal, a hedonistic son of a rich family. Seeing the four of them continue to walk forward, countless people began to wake up. Many pedestrians who wanted to buy urgently rushed to the shops in front. If they continued to watch the show, the entire street would be cleared out. What else could they buy? You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.